Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lassiter.
Here.
Nocheck.
Here.
Conklin.
Here.
Mooney.
Here.
Deacon.
Here.
Four present.
Okay, thank you. Well, first up, we have the police department badge hitting ceremony. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great time you done. So several months ago, we hired Officer Denvers to join our ranks. And he has gone through his training phase very well. He's impressed all of us. And it happens. That any few meetings ago, but I couldn't be there for one and I didn't want to miss. So police badge dates back to medieval times, 1994, coat of arms representing their. More recently in history, is a symbol of identify those in the community that have been entrusted in protecting services. A police officer's badge, perhaps the most visible and recognizable symbol of policing around the world, it is seen by many as a sign of authority, sacrifice, service, and trust. At Boyne Police Department, we have a tradition of earning your badge. When you're hired, you get a plain badge that only bears the word police on it. Only after the training phase, when an officer has demonstrated their skills, knowledge, and ability to perform what we demand of our officers, they earn their official Boyne City badge. So you're being entrusted with this badge as a symbol of your worthiness as a police officer, to serve and protect the people from whom you derive your power and authority to enforce the laws of the land without fear or favor. Each officer here has helped you during your training in one fashion or another, and we'd like to present you with your own official Boyne City Police badge. Pin this on, Janae and I, you come up here. You want to help Dad get the badge? Get the whole desk. And at this time, we'll do the ceremonial swearing in as well. That's kind
Have you raised your right hand? Would you agree with the statement? Say it again. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of office of police officer in and for the city of Boyne City, County of Charlevoix, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
And anything you'd like to address, why you?
Oh, yeah.
You like
Never get the mic that head.
5 minutes.
Hey, Jim is next on there.
I didn't think you guys let me understand.
I guess first off, you guys can't make things out on that anymore, so here we go. No, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it does feel like an honor to be standing up here today, so there's a few things that I'd like to say. As Steve mentioned, I started back in May. You know, over the past 4 weeks, I've gotten to meet a lot of you, a lot of people throughout the community who've gotten to know the city. And to the city, I'd just like to say thank you for all the warm welcomings and for all the appreciation that you show this department. I feel blessed to work for a department within a city with that type of dynamic. And with regards to the department, I don't think you guys need me to tell you how special the group this is, but it's true. The chief and assistant chief, thank you so much for just believing in me and for all the support throughout the process, starting back about a year ago now, through the hiring process, and then through the academy, and then through field training, so now. To all the officers and our support specialists, love working with you guys so far. I think each one of you have taught me a ton. I really appreciate that. Specifically Officer Kyle Smith. He was my field training officer, and we spent the summer pretty much tied at the hip. And he hasn't said this to me, but I'm pretty sure he's got his sick leave by now. But I can't say enough good things about Kyle. Phenomenal officer, amazing teacher, and an even better person. Lastly, my wife Janae and son Emmanuel, they've truly gone through this process with me. It hasn't been easy, but they've been my rock, my sounding board, and my sanity check. So you guys. And lastly, I'd just like to say, really an answer to a question that's come up throughout this process that I've heard over and over and over again is the question of why. Why in your mid-30s, why would you leave a successful career to start from scratch to try to become a police officer? And the answer is definitely complex, but I think it boils down to three main ideas. One thing, I think now more than ever it's needed. Two, I have an extreme amount of confidence that I can do this job and can do it well. And three, I think right now, this is what I'm meant to do. So with that, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to serve the community. And I hope that circumstances are such that I can be here for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have a consent agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may have any items or items on the consent agenda be removed and placed as the last item under new business to receive full discussion. Such requests will be automatically inspected. We have three items. Item A, approve the August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting minutes as presented. Approval of the Women's Resource Center proclamation in observance of Domestic Abuse Awareness for the month of October 2023. And C, approve the Police Department DJI M3T drone purchase order contract, unmanned vehicle technology for an amount not to exceed $7,138. Anyone in the audience who would like to request? Sandy?
Hi, I'm Sandy Richards, 5.60 Lincoln. I don't know if you need to postpone it to the end, but I do have two questions about the Main Street minutes and the Parks and Rec.
And we would have to move back to the end of the,
If you wouldn't mind. In A, I think it's in A and E.
Wait, are you just talking about the consent?
yeah, thanks, Tim. We're right now, Sandy, we're talking about the consent agenda, the Main Street minutes and the, Parks and Rec. You could ask the question when we get to that to the agenda.
Sorry, my bad.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving on, we have citizen comments. This will be on non-agenda items. If any member of the audience would like to address the city commission on a non-agenda item, I ask that you go to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, and Jessica will be keeping track of the time. Anyone with a citizen's comment on the non-agenda item? Okay, moving on. We have correspondence in the city commission meeting packet. There were 2 items. Chet Falkowski's email of August 19th, 2023, and Consumer Energy Notice here. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I did. Yeah, I did reach out, Bethany, HVAC regarding the, letter from Chet Walkowski, about the pathway. She did say they are exploring different options, for, some kind of a sidewalk, from Litzenberg to, or past Deer Meadows to the senior center. They have made accommodations for a walking route for people in the wintertime that does pass through Litzenberg, keep people safe and dry while they make their way from Park Street to the senior center. But she said they're also exploring different options for that as we're moving forward.
Thanks, George. Thanks for reaching out. Anyone else? Okay, moving on, we have the city manager's report. Mike?
A couple things. One, we had a plan on zooming directly to Facebook, but we ran into technical difficulties. So we are transmitting directly on Zoom, and we will post this to Zoom and Facebook after the meeting. The airport drag race on the Sunday of Labor Day was successful. We had over 120 vehicles participating with large crowds as well. Jacob Duncan, a lifelong Boyne City resident, has begun his position as deputy treasurer last Tuesday. He's currently undergoing with our outgoing deputy treasurer, Jane Halstead. If you're driven by Peninsula Beach Park, you'll see that the new shelter that the Rotary Club is building is now above the ground and pretty well framed out. They expect to begin work on the roof as early as today. Last week, startup and testing of the new Rivermouth pump house backup generator was not completed due to technical issues. They are back and have the generator running today and hope to complete the formal setup and testing process later this week or next. And we expect to fully test the backup power circuits, which include the downtown traffic signals and streetlights, and we'll keep the public notified of any possible disruptions. Those disruptions will only be the city-owned and operated facilities and will not affect any businesses or anything to that. I'm sad to report that retired DPW employee Doug Weiss passed away at his home here in Boyne City last Thursday, the 7th. He retired here in June of 2016 after 28 years of service to the Boyne City community. His visitational and funeral will be held at the Christ Lutheran Church here in Boyne this Friday, the 15th at 10 and 11 a.m. respectively. Yesterday, our police department was notified that the Charlotte Boys Lions Club is donating about $1,800 to cover the full cost of the 4th and final drone they've been looking to purchase. This drone would be the same as the smaller unit that's mainly for interior use that the city commission recently approved. Our police department was asked to speak to their club about our drone program recently, which led to the donation. Our request on this purchase will be coming before the city commission soon. Also, yesterday, the police department, working with other local and area public safety agencies, gave a short but very moving 911 remembrance prior to the beginning of the Boyne City High School varsity soccer game. The Veterans Memorial flag is flying. The Veterans Memorial is flying a special 911 memorial flag on the memorial's center pole through the remainder of this week. A reminder that property taxes for the summer are due and must be received here at City Hall this Thursday, the 14th, before 4:30 p.m. to avoid penalty. The Boyne City Main Street program will be celebrating its 20th anniversary with a reception and dinner this Thursday, the 14th, starting at 5:30 p.m. All commissioners are welcome to attend. And we should contact the Main Street Executive Director Ingrid Day for more information on that. We were notified this afternoon that the Fields and Green Committee, that their application to the Michigan Charitable Gaming Division was returned because the name system that they were using, and requested that it be submitted under, the state would prefer that it be under the ball, baseball, softball field with Boyne Inc. instead of the Field of Greens Committee. Both things were included in the materials that the city commission reviewed and approved when supporting their application several meetings ago. So unless there's some objection, we'll file or correcting paperwork on that. Our fall residential rubbish collection program collection will be taking place this Saturday, the 16th. Details are available on the city's website. The contractor for the open space project is now expected to begin work this coming Monday, the 18th. The contractor for the pavement crack sealing program is hoping to start next week as well. That's weather permitting, and we've had a lot of weather lately. The new electric gate at the airport has been tested and is scheduled to be activated next Monday, the 18th. The new chairs for the airport terminal that the commission previously approved arrived last Friday. The Boyne Area Chamber of Commerce announced that they will be holding a public Meet the Candidates forum next Tuesday, September 19th, here in the commission chambers from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And they'll be doing that in conjunction with the League of Women Voters of North Lower Michigan. Forum will be for informational purposes only, as a way for citizens of Boyne City to meet the candidates and ask questions. The chamber will be collecting questions from the public and sharing those with the league to use with the candidates. We received an update on the 5 new housing units being created on East Main Street from Jane McKenzie and Northern Homes. Both 635 and 820 East Main Street will be demolished the first week of October this year. The electric and gas utilities have been removed. Asbestos has been checked for and removed where necessary, and they've obtained the necessary demolition permits. The demolition contractor has it on their schedule, and they believe that is a firm date. Construction was scheduled to start next year, and they are submitting applications for additional funding, combined with housing brownfield TIF to make the purchase price affordable for the local workforce. That TIF will be coming before the city commission for consideration at a future meeting. It needs to be approved by both the city commission and the Charlotte County Board of Commissioners to go into effect. We also have a preliminary update from Mike Morphy of Kevin Marsh on preparations for bidding and replacement of Dock D, the D dock of the marina. He says he can provide a more detailed update later in the week. Submits the following: that the survey has been completed, the electrical design is in progress, the dock design is in progress, upland and site utility design is in progress. That they've spoken to flotation docking system, one of the companies we expect to have bid, and they anticipate that if they do get the bid, that they'd be able to install prior to mid-June of next year. Once the designs are completed, they still has to be reviewed by the state before it will be advertised. And the water main that part of the project will have to be permitted by that people. We also received an update from Eric Brown from C2AE, who is here today on another topic regarding the approval of the Front Street Crush and Shape project that is partially going to be funded by us through state funds. It's working its way through the Michigan Department of Transportation's review and approval project. They are making all the necessary revisions that MDOT was requiring, and they should be resubmitting everything by tomorrow morning. It'll have to be re-signed, and then it should be approved and obligated for bidding. The project still has to go out for bid through the state. They're the ones that issue the bids. So I'm anticipating that work will actually take place in 2024. And I'll keep the commission apprised on all those as more information becomes available. We've been able to tentatively schedule a visit with our state senator, John DeMoose. His office has him available to be here with us on Monday, October 9th, between 10 and 2:30 p.m. or some portion thereof, depending on how long the commission wants to talk to him or meet with him. Mondays are usually better days for him while they're in sessions, and that was the first one that they had available. So commissioners, please check your calendars when you have a chance and let me know if that'll work for you. And if there are any particular topics you would like to review with him while you're here.
The 9th isn't good, we can push it out later, but there isn't an opportunity to make it sooner than that. Charlevoix County's Emergency Management Office is working with Networks Northwest to update the county's hazard mitigation plan, which normally deals with natural environments like tornadoes, snowstorms, things of that nature. And they're going to be holding public input sessions around the county in next month in October. One of their drop-in sessions will be held here on Wednesday, October 25th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And they have more information on the website. And there's a flyer here. This is same one that's on the back table there that has more information if anybody's interested. And one last call for the Michigan Municipal League's early registration for their upcoming convention. Those are due this Friday, and if any commissioners are interested, be glad to address any questions on these or other items the commission might have.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Commission, questions or?
Yeah. In regards to our Mountains update, the upland water main will need to be permitted for Eagle Part 399. Has that permitting process started, or is it?
I'll double check on that. They were doing the survey work and they were in here measuring out the water and did that. I'm not sure if they submitted the big one.
Okay.
Moving on. We have item 8, reports of officers, board and standing committees, included in the city commission meeting packet. The Main Street Board regular meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2023. Parks and Recreation Commission regular meeting minutes of August 10th, 2023. And the Airport Advisory Board regular meeting minutes of August 24th, 2023. Sandy, you have a question about those?
I do.
Could you again state your name and address?
Sandy Pritchard, 526 East Lincoln Street. With regards to the Main Street minutes, on August 3rd, we kind of touched on the Rivermouth pump status. Is it, other than the generator, is the pump house completely operational? There's one question. There was also reference to a developer visiting town or making inquiries about a hotel site. And there was nothing, it was said, it's a challenge, but there was no additional elaboration on that. So if you would, maybe offer some of that information to us. The other item that was mentioned in the Main Street minutes was interacting with the MEDC about making some changes for muskrat, the second level, I guess, and there was a reference to possibly helping lots on the lakes. And I'm not sure what that means to us. So there's that on Main Street, on Parks and Rec. On the August 10th meeting, there was mention of 40 acres of land off Pleasant Avenue near the archery range. And it has existing paved road, water and sewer. And there was you had contacted apparently the new housing coordinator for Charlevoix County. I was interested to hear some elaborating on that, what the thoughts were, or the combo might have been on that. You mentioned Sunset Park and the potential for an updated future design. Curious what action will be taken towards that. And on the Rotary Park shelter, apparently there's a new one being built, and it was awarded to Kroondike, and I was curious one that was approved by the city commission and was whether there was more than one bid.
Okay. Did you get all those questions, Mike?
Probably not. But I went work my way through it and you could repeat whatever ones you need to try and address.
Just provide answers to Sandy and get it back to her when we have them all. or-
Whatever way the commission would like to proceed, I can address them.
What's that? Get them back to all. Yeah. Well, why don't you work through the list and what we can answer?
Sure.
The answers to.
After the meeting, will you give us your list so we can make sure that we have all of your questions?
Yeah, and we'll have a recording as well too to get that. The pump station will be going through a final punch list to go through all the items, including the pumps and the generators and all sorts of checklists. We haven't gotten to that point yet. They'll be coming up in the near future. So that project is not closed out yet. Let's see, the Muskrat, they're looking to create 2 residential units on the second floor. Excuse me, hotel units on the second floor of that facility. And they're working with the MEDC on possible financing for that, to see if that would be helpful. And they might be looking for a TIP, tax increment financing consideration on that as well too. Loft on Lake Street, again, they're still dealing with financial gaps on that project. And again, we're looking to see if there's any way to facilitate any state funding as we attempted to in the past. So we're waiting to hear from them with regards to where they are and what they think the gap is and what may need to be done. Sunset Park, the Park and Recreation Commission has begun discussions with regards to coming up or possibly having an update or review of the planning documents that have been created over that area in the past. So they can come up with some concrete plans for dealing with that park going forward. And that would include looking at what, if anything, should be done with the log cabin on the corner. You mentioned a Rotary Park shelter. There must be something incorrect there because there is no new Rotary Park shelter. That's the shelter, and this must be the Peninsula Beach shelter that's currently constructed.
Was it bid?
No, it wasn't a bid because it's being donated and provided by the Boyne City Rotary Club. They're paying for it.
Yeah, well, except for the developer hotel site.
Oh, yeah, that is the old Save-A-Lot proposed site on M75 South. Cat Development is looking to build a 74-unit hotel there, similar to the complex they built on the east side of I-75 in Gaylor. It'd be a two-tier, like regular hotel room suites, much like that facility was there. And they approached us and Wilson Township with regards to, because that's in Wilson Township, but they would want city utilities there.
I'm sorry, the other one was the 40 acres.
Oh, yes, in meeting with the Dak Stemples from Housing North. We're always looking for additional for possible properties for development, and we put on the list of things to possibly explore is acreage over by the between the city limits and the drive for the archery range on Pleasant Avenue. There's some property there, but it's on it's got a good slope on it, so we're not sure how viable that is. So that's just putting it on a list of another property that might have some potential there, especially since it is on a paved road and we do have water and sewer very nearby.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? That are good. All right, moving on.
I would like to, if for the record, there was only simple mention of the MEDC thing with Muskrat Distillery that was not discussed at the Main Street meeting. That was presumptuous at best, and so we talked about that in the future.
Okay, moving on. We have old business 9A, short-term rental update. Scott?
Hey, Mayor. At the May 9th, 2023 meeting of the city commission, the staff provided update for commission regarding the month of rentals and implementation of the ordinance. At that meeting, the commission took no actions, but requested that the future update be provided in 3 to 6 months, and that. From May 1st through September 6th, the total of 20, my memo has been outdated since I wrote it, and I issued no license, yesterday. So there are 20 additional licenses that are issued for a total of 151 licenses. And the breakdown of the licenses, the district follows. You can see the numbers from May and the numbers from September 6th. Well, the traditional residential district are 115, total, with 9 of those being accessory dwelling units, which is approximately 8.5% of the unit of one in that district. The multi-family district is 24, which is 4.3 units in the district. Special business district is 21 and 19.8% of the dwelling units in that district. The waterfront residential district is 12, 9.5%. Rural estate district, there's 7, which is 5.1%. And professional office district, there's 1, which is 8.3. And the transitional commercial district, there's 1, which is 30% of the dwelling units in that district. But sometimes when you have small numbers, and you can get big percentages into small amounts, so it's something that they do to bring us all. So far, the administration, of the ordinance has been very well. It goes smoothly, and only a couple of minor complaints have been received regarding the operation of short-term rentals. I have had several inquiries in the last couple of weeks about people looking at buying properties and having those used as short-term rentals. So I do expect to have a license. We have had something with that as the majority of people that have operating or intend to operate have a license. And I only expect a modest increase from here on out, but I do still expect it to. So that's my update. If you have any questions, I got the answer.
Thank you, Scott. We can go to citizen comments now on this agenda item on short-term rental. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on the update?
Yeah, we'll hear it.
Sure.
There we have 816 Lower Lake Drive. I have a question, how we can handle trash. For instance, the short-term rental that's across the street from me, they typically change clients on Sundays. The cleaning lady comes in on Sunday, the cleaning lady rolls the trash cans out to the street. Trash doesn't come till Wednesday. Last week, the trash was out there, but no one came to pick it up. So I've been looking at 3 different rentals in the 7-day period, and trash cans sitting in the front of my street for 7 days now. Do you think it might, and I realize sometimes it's not convenient for the cleaning person or the person who's in charge of these rentals to come back and put the trash out the night before pickup. But do you think with the funds that are derived from the application process, do you think there could be a place where a dumpster could be located where these rentals could put their trash in between the pickup days? I don't know. I'm looking for suggestions on how we get in on this. I don't know if anyone else has these problems with the short-term rentals, but it's definitely a problem down on Lower Lake.
Okay. Scott, is there anything in the ordinances now that people can't leave their trash out from work?
As part of the good neighbor policy and part of the ordinance standards, the trash is supposed to be put out no earlier than the day before and brought in after the pickup. So leaving it out there for several days is not correct, and it is a homeowner's responsibility, the property owner's responsibility to make sure that trash is taken care of.
I took a conversation with the neighbor.
Right, but no one has contacted me or let me know about this. this, and I can contact the local agent and let them know that this is not acceptable and needs to be taken care of.
I noticed, I don't remember which community, but one of the communities, I think it's like around the lake here, has in their ordinance that only one rental within a 7-day period. This is not the first time that this has happened, where 3 different groups have come in to this rental in between, you know, a 7-day period. It's unacceptable. The other thing that, I've talked to the owner about is this house is what, 3,000 square foot. There's a huge two-car garage, but the trash cans sit out front of the garage every day. They don't go in the garage or some enclosure.
Okay, well,
And
I think in the future, there's a trash can out by the street. At a time, we need to contact the city so they can enforce it with the property owner.
right, it just so happened, I know trash was, a day late this week because of the holiday, and I wasn't home all day till dark when I got home, and I realized that the trash hadn't been taken out, because often I'll do that, I'll take her cans back from her, but I don't like them in the front of the garage, I would prefer they be in the garage out of sight, and we've talked about that, but, we've not come to an agreement on why they need to be in front of the garage on a daily basis.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott, Mike, you make note of that, when you annually, if any changes need to be made, yeah, sure.
Well, this is the first
I'm
thing I've heard about this.
Yeah, but
There's everybody.
but there'll be a discussion maybe in a couple of months about the entire ordinance, if there's anything that needs to be updated.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, when we talked.
I mean, I have a picture of what's out there right now. The cans have bags on top of them, 2 cans, and it's, you know, it's this tall.
Call me tomorrow.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Andy Richards, 526 East Lincoln Street. Got a couple of questions and a little bit of data. How many total housing units do we have in Boyne City now? Roughly, I think we left out,
2,461.
how many?
2,461.
Okay, so we've got a few more homes than we did back in 21.
Yeah. I updated them.
And do we know how many of the people that are getting licenses are claiming principal residence exemptions?
Not off the top of my head, but I can find that out.
I think that would be an interesting piece of data. I'm gonna pass this out. I have kept the data since, well, this goes back to December of 21. At which time the TRD had 64, or a total of 141 in Boyne City at the time. And we now apparently have 180 that are licensed, and 114 of those are in the traditional district, which is a 78% increase. Anyone else that would care for a copy? Back when the ordinance was being developed, we did it in a very careful, thorough process. But the end result, I feel, and many others, was diluted. Short-term personal housing units don't count against any cap that might be set in the future. And in reality, the number of SPRs, in my opinion, is much higher. Charlevoix, East Jordan, Elk Rapids, Van Township, Eveline Township, Traverse City, and St. Ignace, that happen to be regional, all have caps on their SPRs. And I believe Boyne City residents deserve that same protection. A while back, Mayor Conklin and Commissioner Needhammer proposed setting an STR cap, and it was voted down. And I believe we need one set now. Some people are saying the market's down, the demand isn't there, et cetera, et cetera. I really don't care. I think we really need to protect, for sure, our traditional residential district. You can grandfather the existing units until attrition restores our community. And if you look at the caps that, and I don't have, unfortunately, have a percentage of their number of housing units, but back when Scott and the planning commission did a very thorough study of the surrounding areas, the Always cap was 8. East Jordan 50, Elk Rapids 60, Evangeline 44 or 45, and so on. This isn't gonna stop. Capitalism is the way in America, and I guess we need to do what we can to protect the community and the culture of our neighborhoods in the field. To go from 64 units in December of 21 to 114 less than 2 years later, that is a trend that has to stop. So in my opinion, we need to dial it way back, whether it's the 64 that we had in 21, and let attrition take care of itself. And I am imploring this commission to set a very tight cap so we can protect this community. We talk about housing all the time. People say, well, now if the houses that were STRs went up for sale, nobody'd be able to afford them. Maybe. A lot of those people put speculative business cases ahead and got commercial loans, and if they end up foreclosing, too bad. We need to do something to protect our neighborhoods. And many of you campaign on keeping the hometown feel, the small town feel. And I'm imploring to please step in and do something about setting a cap. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lisa Teal, 306 State Street. So I was going to ask if there was a cap, because I don't know what district I live in, but it may be. I have a lot of short-term rentals on my street, and it feels like there's no more sense of community. And I've been approached by one of the other persons that owns a couple of rentals and asking me if I'd sell my house, and at that point it was, absolutely not. But the more and more short-term rentals we get, the less community, and I don't feel like, why should I stay anymore? Why should I just sell them? So I think this is just gonna snowball. Who wants to stay in a resort town if there's no community?
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Joe Weiss, Robert, 555 Bay Street. I'm coming to this game a little late, I'm sorry. What is the definition for short-term rentals?
Scott, would you?
And more than, for periods more than 28 days a year, or less than 28 days. So you can rent it.
Listen, yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Aren't relevant. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Commissioners, this is just a report from Scott. Is there anything any of you want to discuss?
Sure, respectfully, Marty was right, this was a discussion, and so here we are discussing it. You and I are short term here, because the election in November. But you and I have been involved with this stuff at the beginning, which is a long time. I hate to turn this, I mean, the whole project will be turned over to the new commission. But the issue of caps, I'd like to address that. As stated, we proposed a cap of 90. That was voted down. Then I went to 95 on the interest compromise. That was voted down. I guess I know this is a discussion item tonight, but as has been pointed out, the trend is not good. We've discussed over the last 3 years, and I've stated publicly that the short-term rentals are an asset to our community, and they also, there's some problems. I think our ordinance really addresses a lot of those problems. And I think we have a very good ordinance, but it's back to balance. And I think the balance is moving out of balance too fast. And with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I know this was a discussion, I'd be willing to make a motion concerning the cap tonight.
Yeah, well, then, that would be something appropriate, wouldn't it? And then
The commission, yeah, the commission could.
Just discuss it for a second. So feel free if you wanted to make a motion.
You may want to go through discussion with the other commissioners first.
Yeah, we could discuss your motion. And then we can go through the table and have a discussion on what your motion is.
So my motion would be that I would propose a cap of 95 of 100. Right now we're at 105 because I subtracted the ADUs as we have done before. So it's 114, but 9 of them are ADUs. 115.
Yes, 115 minus 9, you have a total of 106 in TRDs that are not ADUs. As of current.
I said 105, so
So you're speaking correctly of the traditional residential district with the cap, and every other zoning district would be uncapped.
correct. So my motion tonight would be, I would make a motion to put a cap of 100 in the traditional residential district.
Is there a second? I'll second it, so we can have discussion. So, George, you're going to participate in the conversation. Is that
Correct.
yes? First time there was a letter from the city attorney that it would be appropriate for you to participate in the discussion, since you have a accessory dwelling unit and not technically a short-term rental. That's correct. Okay. All right, Tim, you want to?
Yeah, so my talking point before the motion got on the floor, was gonna be, I supported a cap from the very beginning. If anyone wants to go back and listen to any of the meetings where I spoke about it in the last year, since we've worked on this ordinance. My part of the conversation is not just the thought process of TRD, but also the thought process of protecting the TRD, the community there, and also the atmosphere of our economic development and the atmosphere and the environment of our downtown community. In the events that this community holds throughout the years, such as Mushroom Festival, 4th of July Festival, Art Festival, and it's more than what I can count throughout that. I looked and compared Charlevoix, East Jordan, all 15 other communities, very intensively, looking at the metrics. And I've supported a cap of 10% in TRD from the very beginning. So at any point in time, the commission, we talked about this several times and we're not. At one point in time, I felt like there's 3 commissioners up here that supported the 10%. We didn't pull the trigger right then and there. Going back, listening to the recordings, there was more than 3 commissioners that supported the 10% in the conversation at that meeting. Unfortunately, we were so new at the ordinance stage, we were just in the draft stage and that conversation never carried over. So I would still stand by what I said for the last year now. protecting and comparing the transient occupancy of Charlotte, all the motels and the hotels and the capacity they have there. Looking at their housing density versus our housing density and their overall dwelling numbers versus ours. I feel that 10% is a good fit for our community and our business specific needs within Boyne City. Without jeopardizing small businesses or putting any strain on those small business owners. So the 100 that you just threw out there, I can't support, but I will support the number that I've thrown out there for a year now. If we can get it, I came here tonight with the anticipation to make a motion once again at a 10% of the TRD, hoping that we can get a cap passed, but if it's gonna be a standoff between that, then I guess we're not gonna get there. So I would support a cap. I've said it from the very beginning. The numbers that I've come to gather and collect and process through, I haven't changed. Potentially there's a hotel development on the scope of 75 units potentially coming to Boyne City that would help it out drastically. It's not done, it's millions of dollars that it's not even close to being a done deal. So those numbers can't affect, but that would be an opportunity to look at the metrics again, analyze, process through the numbers. But unfortunately, with the numbers the way they are right now, I would support a 10%. Yeah. So the motion I came today prepared to make was a 10% cap. We are, clearly these numbers are going up. Scott suggests that he feels that these numbers are going to continue to climb. Looking at, even this that we were just provided, the numbers are right here. They are going up. Not as fast as what some people anticipated. They have plateaued, they have slowing down. Overall, the numbers are still going up. So I can't support your motion right now, but I would, after this, if it stales out, I'll throw a motion out there as well, very similar to what you guys have heard the last year.
Sure. Just to clarify, you are 100% correct in your analysis, Tim. At the beginning, I said 10% sounded good until I did the math. And that's when I again publicly said that there's 130. Well, there's 1,300 homes in the TRD. So 10% would be about 130. So we're at 105 right now. And that has climbed significantly. Waiting to go to 10% is too much. And it all has to do with balance. It's just balance, and it's hard to put the correct number on it. As I said, there are benefits to our community, and they also, as I mentioned, there's some issues with the integrity of the neighborhood and other issues too. So I just want to clarify, I'm the one that said, hey, that sounds good until I did the math. I think 130 is too much.
I was, making a game on this one, because I had to abstain for a lot of the discussion. But it was my understanding that this issue and the cap was gonna be revisited after the ordinance had been in place for a year. It was my understanding that's what was decided on, which would be December, from my understanding. I don't like the idea of going back on that. You want to call it a promise that we would wait till December to revisit this and set a cap. I'm certainly not against the cap. But I think if that's what we decided or was decided by this board way back when, wait till December, I think we should stick to that.
Thanks, Marty.
Yes, Marty?
Everything that's been said here is absolutely true. Tom did say that he did, we started with that 10% when Tim was talking about, we talked a lot about that. And that he, and the aspect was, okay, that was what everybody kind of agreed upon. Scott, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but Tim sort of spoke, you just said that you see the trend slowing. And I believe that. I think what George said is that I think that, we made a promise. Or this board gave their word that we were gonna, this didn't come on like, there was tons of discussion. The other thing is, this was an update, this was put in here as an update tonight. I think if this was being voted on, I think this would be a completely different audience. Not different, I mean, I think there's many people here saying, no, doggone, there needs to be a cap, or saying, no, doggone, there doesn't need to be a cap. So I don't think it's fair to go this direction, because we didn't set out to go that direction. We were very specific when we talked about this last December and said, okay, there needs to be a cooling off period. We need to figure this out. Scott's done a great job of compiling this information. Sandy, I thank you immensely for this, but I mean, when this started out, I think, it wasn't, I don't even, as Scott will tell you, not all the wheels were, not all the cogs were turning at the same time. And so, did it jump as much as what it looks like? Probably not. It jumped. I'm not disputing that at all. But I think that George said it best. We made a promise, and I'm willing to stick to that promise. And then we'll revisit it at the end of the year. And I think that's how it should be, because that's how we talked about going into this. And it's it is a trend. You read a million different articles across the country that for a while there was the hottest new thing. Oh man, all the little coffee places, you got to do this. This is the greatest thing, and I'm killing it. And now nobody's killing it because everybody did it. And so it's just you can see it getting diluted. So there are people that are gonna leave it. I think it's gonna be interesting what will happen over this next quarter, quite frankly, until we get this full year in and we can see how the pendulums form. And again, we all discussed the 10% thing, and we all were like, yeah, that would be fine. And we're still, I wouldn't say nowhere near that, but we're still not. We're still a good bit from that, and I don't want to see it over there, but I don't think it would. And again, it was all about taking a serious topic and addressing it, and then saying, okay, we're going here, we're going to put the stop gaps in place, and then we said we're going to address it in a year. So again, Tom made great points, George made great points, Tim made great points. I think it's, where we need to be is unfortunately, finish the year out like we promised. So.
Tom, do you want to have any consideration on your motion after hearing the other three commissioners?
The reason I don't want to wait the fourth quarter is, as I stated, you and I will not be here. More importantly, the trend is moving too fast. So I will stick with my motion. Thank you.
So I agree that the trend is right here, the 10% thing, the numbers are right here. Database on 24011, now we have currently, what was the last update? 22461, so we've gone up 50 some homes in the TRD in the last year already.
Oh, 50 some homes.
Yeah. Or
Right.
do you know?
The additional dwelling units in the DRB.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back.
Okay.
So there, at the end of August 2022, there were 89 units
I'm talking about total.
total.
Yeah, not the FTRs, like the total dwellings themselves.
I think the 50 you got out
The total
of
dwelling.
Sandy's thing.
Yeah.
That was all.
Yeah, I think it's here, 20, says 2411, that was from 2022, count by the planning commission, is what you have documented here.
Right.
And Scott, you just gave us an update of 2461 housing units in Boyne.
You're right. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to update each
each year. So 130. And I'm just gonna throw it out there, on average, how many homes do we lose from the TRD on a yearly basis?
We lose.
Yeah, we don't do it. Typically, we're not losing homes in the TRD. We're having the homes added to districts as new homes are being built,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We don't tear down many homes in Boyne City, we build.
Say, torn down a year, but
Right,
typically there's a net gain.
correct. So setting a cap, I mean, I get where you're coming from, Tom. You're not gonna be here when the ringer comes in December. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm not willing to do a cap right now because we said at one point in time that we're gonna wait a whole year. I said, yes, I was part of the consensus of wanting to see what it does in that year, but I also said within multiple meetings in that time frame that 10%, let's put the cap at 10%. You know, that's what's best for our community, for all parties involved. You know, there's some people that want to cap at 10 homes. STRs, there's some people that don't want STRs period in Boyne City, but that would wreck happen. Once the paper starts getting pulled and you get down to the end of it. New homes are being added to districts every single year. And I first talked to Scott about putting a 10% in the ordinance, the language that a 10% set a numeric value. Scott advised against that. My thought process was as new homes are being added, that percentage is adjusting, so we're consistently committed to that density percentage within that certain district. But he advised against that language and terminology. So we need a numeric value. That's a benefit on going with 10% because new homes are being added every single year. I know the consensus is waiting until December. I'm also the type of person, as numbers come in and I get new information and gather and collect new information, I can make adjustments on the fly. It's a skill set that I'm blessed with. The numbers are going up. We're getting close to 110 units without ADUs. We're at 106 right now. We're 4 from 110. So to appease your worrisome on the thought process of not being here, can we get a consensus from this commission to put a threshold of 110 non-ADUs within the TRD? If we hit that metric, that next meeting, Scott brings it to us, and then this commission can have an opportunity to make a decision on creating a cap at that point in time. Again, monitoring it, just like we have been, but also monitoring it in a sense of if these are truly getting out of hand, we have the opportunity to react. So we're at 106 right now. If we hit 110 within the time frame of you still being on this commission, Scott advises his board, bring it to us at the next, whatever that next meeting may be. I would be willing to do a special meeting, depending on the time frame, because time's getting tighter in the fall than what it typically does for me. But that will give you an opportunity to still be involved.
Okay. Well, I don't feel the need to be involved, or to postpone or have any. I've been disappointed from the beginning. I thought one of the, we had identified a few issues with short-term rental, noise, trash, but we thought it was all taken care of under other ordinances in the city. My main intent is to try to have a short-term rental cap for certain neighborhoods. And at that time, when we were talking about it in December of 2021, we had 64 short-term rentals in the traditional residential district. Now we have 105. And I don't look at a number, I look at families that don't have the opportunity to have a home in the city. And I understand the rationale of like the hotels in Charlotte, we have at Petoskey, well, that's 15 miles away. People who are coming to Boyne City for all the festivals and all sorts of things, they're staying in Petoskey, they're coming here, they're supporting local business. What I'm most concerned about are people, families not being able to buy a home in Boyne City. Our teachers, our industrial park, they're not able to afford the home. How many houses in the last 2 years, Scott, have we built in the traditional residential neighborhood? Do you have any idea? How many zoning permits have been?
Over the last 2 years, probably 15 to 20.
15 to 20. So that's a difference of, that's nowhere near equalizing. But I've just been disappointed from the beginning. I thought we were gonna have a short-term rental cap. We had a number that we were talking about. We weren't gonna be harming anyone who's already made an investment. We were laying the ground rules out there so people knew. And now, since that time, we've been 40 or 50 more. So, that's how I thought what we were talking about, the idea of waiting until December is to see how it's working, what kind of complaints are coming out and all that sort of stuff. From the beginning, I was disappointed we didn't have it. We didn't have open on. So anyway, that's my part. So we have a motion with a second for 100 short-term rentals in the traditional residential district. Is there any further comment before we vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just clarification on that 100, are you including ADUs in that?
No.
Okay.
The ordinance.
As in, yeah, the language. Yeah.
Can you clarify that, Scott?
So
The specific that the ADUs don't apply to the cap, so that here does not apply.
right,
Okay, that's what I thought.
yeah, I agree with you on the whole family thing, but also look at the communities that have caps, they're still struggling, it's not an impactful solution. At the end of the day, by just creating a short-term rental and throwing a tight cap on there and expecting now there's homes, a plethora of homes available for families, it's a lot more complex than that, a lot more complicated than that. So I stand by what I've said for you know.
I'll on the fact that, okay, if we're gonna go down this slope of families and everybody's affected by this in this community. But then one thing that we need to address is the pitfalls or trials that we give people that try to build housing in this community. There's a house for sale we're all familiar with. It's on Harris Street. There's 8 city lots with this property, and it's been inquired upon multiple times to the city, and no. And so that's not directing that no at anybody special at all. My point is that we make it cost prohibitive, and we don't as a city say, you know what? We need housing in this community, and we're gonna help you. We're gonna lift some of these limitations, and we're gonna help you build some extra housing here, and we don't. And so you can point blame in a lot of different ways, and I'm still gonna stand by what George said, and what I agree with is that we set this. I understand what you said, and I respect, what you said, but we did say that we were gonna, because there was a lot of consternation on this. And we had a lot of discussion on it, we said we were gonna wait a year to see how things, fell out. I guess, we have Chief Spade here, and we have Scott here to boot. And Scott just already addressed something, when a citizen stood up and said, I've got an issue with an SDR. And I'm not pointing at that. I'm saying Scott didn't know about it. I don't believe the chief has had, all these complaints that, were supposedly, happening because of the SDRs and everything. And, lived here all my life. I love Boyne City, but on the same token, we need to, you can't be flippant. I'm not saying that Tim is being flippant in any way, but again, we talked, we talked about 10%. If we're gonna have this discussion, then we need to have this discussion. And we weren't honest and true to this community about having a discussion tonight. This was an update. There's 2 completely different things there. I figured this is how this was gonna go, that we get this flipped over and it would try to turn into this. But that's not fair to the community at all.
I agree with that, 100%.
If we're gonna go back to having a major conversation about SDRs, then it needs to be, then all of, Mr. King's little yellow signs need to be up all over the TRD in every district. We're having this discussion. Let's go.
That's a good point, Marty.
And Marty, I agree with you that, well, first of all, being on the planning commission, we have taken away so many barriers as an incentive to make it more affordable to build. I think we've done a very good job, but I also agree with you. Could we go further? In the 12 lots you're referring to, eight lots you're referring to is an undeveloped road. And so who bears the cost of developing water, sewer, sidewalk, street? Is it the developer or is it the city? The city says, yes, we want more houses, so we develop, we share the cost, we do the cost of developing water and sewer, sidewalk and street. And is that fair? Should the city taxpayers pay $100,000 to develop a road, to develop 8 more lots? It's complicated. I don't have the answer, but I've been discussing this when I was trying to develop property as a building trades teacher, trying to find lots that were affordable, so we can build affordable houses and trying to get water and sewer in the street. It's complicated.
It's a time for another discussion. I got that.
It is.
But the bottom line is that, but that, it's an L, okay? It's technically, city property, if you will. So, this is where we need to stop. We need to stop this. If we're all gonna sit here and champion and go, doggone it, we need more affordable housing in this community, then we need to step up and go, all right, you know what? In that case, we're not gonna pay before you, Mr. Developer. That's gotta be yours. And I'm sorry, Mayor, we're gonna go down the middle.
Yeah.
Well, we could grapple that doggone thing and get it started, but
I can really appreciate the fact that it hadn't been advertised that we were gonna talk about cats. We could have a full house here. Would it be appropriate, Tom, to postpone this? You withdraw your motion and make sure that this gets scheduled and everyone knows that it's happening for us to have that discussion. And who knows, it might be, a cat of 75.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to withdraw my motion, but it comes back to Tim's concept of coming back within the next month. With the cap of.
This conversation is originated from the same thing that I just said tonight, was when we were talking about it in May, I said, Scott, if you start seeing it, get it out of control, and we come back to this within 3 months. 2 other commissioners said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. That's why we're talking about it tonight. If you go back and listen to the recording.
But I'm referring to a different topic. If I withdraw this motion, but the motion that you're supporting comes back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. We're right back to the same discussion.
Right, the only reason why I think with I agree with what Marty's saying. I will make a motion at 10% right now. The reason why is because every single person that has been very tentative and involved with STRs at meetings for over a year have heard that 10% over and over and over again. So I'm not changing anything. There's no whiplash. There's not gonna be a 360 on anyone. They heard 10% from the beginning from 3 commissioners, and that's what they would get tonight. But reducing that down and restricting that below what we're at right now is a complete government flip flop. And that's not, I'm not part of that. I'm not gonna be part of that. So that's why I can't support your motion, because I would be changing what I've been communicating for over a year at that point in time. And it would make a lot of people upset, rightfully so. It would make me upset if I was one of those people that invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, had an elected official speaking this tone for over a year, and then just on an unadvertised topic, agenda packet, just completely flip-flop it and vote it through at a restricted metric. I mean, there's no way. But I would support what I've been talking about for a year.
Mr. Mayor, I will not withdraw my motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw from that. What commissioners do you think it would be appropriate to have us back on the agenda after the election in December?
I would ask if we had 110.
I would agree with Tim on that. I think if we're tip on 110, then we should be made aware of it, and whether we have to call a special meeting or schedule it within that, that 2 week time frame. And let the public know that there's gonna be discussion on a cap, but
So 110 in the traditional residential district.
Not including ADUs, though.
Yeah, so we would be we're at 105.
We're at 106, because he gave us an update, right, with plus one, so we're at 106, we're 4 away from 110.
So to clarify, Tim, that you're compromising from your 10%. 110 is different than your 10%.
I never once said I want the cap to be 110. What I'm saying is if we hit a value of 110 STRs in the TRD that are not ADUs, I would like for the planning and zoning director to advise the commission that you guys are closing in really close to your 10%. Bring it to the commission as an agenda packet, get it advertised to the public, so then we can have a capping conversation again. Hopefully, we can get a 10% cap at that point in time. We'll see what commission consensus there is. When and if that happens, according to the trend and the metrics and the values that I see in front of me, I believe we're gonna have 4 more homes added in the next month to 2 months, potentially. And why? Well, it's because the numbers are in the pudding, they're right there. So, and I don't wanna leave this meeting and say, let's just wait until December. If December rolls in, oh, we're at 134 now. Now we're at 11%. So I'm just asking that for an opportunity for this commission to hold within that 10% conversation that the public has been involved with for over a year. And before we get to that threshold, make a metric, boundary for the zoning and planning director to let us know, so then we can get engaged before it gets too late.
Then. Mr. Mayor. Then, with that being said, Tim and Tom, then why wouldn't you make? Either of you, why wouldn't you make the motion to be 10%, which this entire board has said, okay, we all agree.
That's what I said I would.
I got that. Why wouldn't you make the motion to be 10%? And or it's December, like it's promised. So then I would stand here and go, okay, because we talked and we talked. And we still talk, but, again. We said it wasn't a light subject, we debated. And we had groups and groups. And that was basically what, was a. If you want to call it consensus. And so again, you can, I'm sure there's somebody listening on Zoom that's gonna call me evil or whatever and everything, that's fine. I mean, I'm standing true to my words. Everybody in this, building right now, and the ones that have been here before, for the last year, and it's plain and simple. We said December. If you want to adjust that, the only thing that I think would be fair is what we talked about, and that's 10%. So if that's what you want, then put it on the table. Tom, put it on the table.
I'll give you a motion. Do you want a motion on it? I'll make a motion. As per section 15-3A of the short-term rental ordinance, establish the cap of short-term rental units in the traditional residential district at 130 units without ADUs counting towards that cap, according to the language of the ordinance.
I was 130, that was 10%. I know that's 10%. You just said that it's a moving target.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Tim, you repeat your motion.
You have it broke down, you give it to me afterwards?
It's basically the same exact motion that, yeah, I'll give it to you. You find it.
And yeah, the community hasn't bought in 10%, you guys have.
There you go, that's what I said, we haven't had this discussion. Well, I mean, we've had this discussion, but
I'll send you a lot of videos of a lot of meetings where 10% was discussed with a lot of community.
I understand.
there hasn't been the yellow signs posted on every.
Before that motion is voted on,
Just can
can I speak for 1 second?
I think we're gonna have to change that a little bit because of the whole topic of conversation has changed since the first time. now, what is the motion that we're voting on? I'm a little unclear.
We still got the first motion on the floor.
No, he voted this second. We went through that.
He read it there. Is that?
So there's no motion other than what Tim had just made.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to read this one a little bit, just. As per section 15-3(8) of the short-term rental ordinance, establish the cap of short-term rental units in the particular residential district at 130 units without ADUs counting towards the cap.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, there's no second. So, Mike, how do we move forward?
Ultimately, the commission will have to decide that. It was called to come back for a discussion today,
We've had that.
and that's basically where things are currently, unless the commission makes a motion that they want something to come back at a certain time. Or other than coming back in December, there's nothing else scheduled at this point.
Commissioners? Any ideas on moving forward?
Yeah, is there two other commissioners on this board right now that would support Scott coming to this commission if we meet a metric of 110 STRs before December? Or do you guys want to just wait until December and let that be that? We might be over 10%, maybe
But your motion was for 130, right?
10%, yes, you. And this is not a motion, this is a consensus. We didn't make a motion to have this conversation today, right?
We didn't.
In May, at the meeting on May, I said, Scott, can you please give us an update in 3 months? Can 2 other commissioners support that? 2 other commissioners said, yes, that's how we're having the conversation now. Commission consensus and commission motion, 2 completely different things. I'm just asking to prevent us from getting over 10% by December. If we meet a threshold of 110 for Scott to bring it to the commission, so then we can adjust from there.
I would support that.
One other commissioner? I don't understand why you two want to cap so bad, but you guys are fighting against me just so much with my name tag. That you guys are going against with the TR, the community in that. Why would you not support that? It makes no sense.
I'm saying 110, 130, or my motion of 100. I'm not sure. No, is 110 a good compromise? Well, I thought 100 was a good compromise. I thought 95 was a good compromise.
You're misconfusing it, Tom. That's a cap. We're just asking him if we hit 110 to let the commission know. Why would you support it in May and not now? Because the motion didn't get passed?
Not at all.
Then why don't you support it in May? To have this conversation right now?
I don't think we're making much progress here, so. It's personal, and it's a difficult issue. We all have a lot of opinions. So. Is maybe we not allow participation, it might kind of, yeah, you could approach the podium and say.
Real short. Hey, my name is Jim Murray. I live in town for the last 50 years. And we've got over 400 short-term rentals in town. Not 104, that's houses. We have condominiums that are all short-term rentals. That's available to the general public. So that's 10% of our population. That's already in short-term rentals. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else in the audience want to make a comment? You were done here in just a second, and keep moving forward.
Pete Ritter, 1215 High Street. You guys have been doing this conversation so long, it's getting so frustrating, being sitting in this audience and watch you throw out percentages. My opinion, come up with a hard number. Percentages is confusing, it's at 130, and 5 months, we have 5 months, so that 10% of year goes up every year for every month. Come up with a hard number. 100, 110, whatever it is, help this community, get this over with. Come up with a number, not a percentage.
Can you clarify it? Can I clarify it?
Commissioner Nevencheck has a question.
Sorry.
So according to our STR ordinance, we do have to pick numeric value. We cannot pick a percentage. We're using a percentage as a discussion point to create numeric value. So 10% of our housing stock would result in 130 as a cap. We're not, none of us are asking it to be a language of 10% in TRD. We're debating over either 100, 75, or 130 as a cap. And the 10% is the cap of that numeric value. Does that make sense? Our ordinance right now would not allow us to do a language of a percentage. We would have to pick a numeric value.
Danny?
Again, Jason, my point is that it's not on the agenda to vote on the change in the ordinance. And therefore, I think you need to delay it until sometime in the future. If you want to have a special meeting, then that would be an appropriate thing to do.
Thank you, Danny.
Sandy Pritchard, 526 East Lincoln, I would support something being done immediately, soon, other than December. That was agreement amongst yourselves. It took until December because of the nature of the subject, excuse me, a year ago to come up with the ordinance in the first place, which was long after when we started looking at it. So the numbers are showing us where it's headed, and I would suggest that it is a high priority in the community. And to the gentleman's point and yours, Marty, I guess, I think that maybe needs to be a special session or something soon. Not 6 months from now, 4 months from now. We had 12 more licenses since May 1st.
Thank you. Beth?
Bethany Hedgepath, I don't live in town, I'm at the Housing Commission, that's the address. So my only concern would be, I'm hearing everybody going back and forth, and it's a very heated topic for everyone in housing especially. I think I'm hearing what Tim's saying is set a number, but I don't think you guys need to do that. I think you just need to set a date. You just need to say, 2 weeks, we're gonna have a meeting and do it and set it up to the community and come with them and then throw your agendas back or your motions back and forth because you all have them. But for us as community members, I don't think it's fair to not have a little more input ahead of time, or the people that are watching that they can't give any input. And if I wasn't here, I would have no idea, none. And if I couldn't listen to the meeting, I would have no idea. And I don't think there's an agreement right now, obviously. It doesn't sound like it, but maybe you guys can put your thoughts together, you know, a little bit better if you have a little more planning, and maybe the meeting can be specifically about that. I just think that's fair for not even just us, but I think all of you, because you all have very strong opinions about it. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Bethany. Anyone else?
Right, 941 Lower Lake Drive. My only question is, you guys are saying you're gonna do this a percentage of 10%, it's gotta be a number. 2 years down the road, the city lightens the restrictions a little bit and start letting the houses be built, as Marty stated. You know, they were talking $100,000 to develop, to make a property of, was it 8 pieces of land developed? I mean, I just paid my taxes for summer, and that would have covered a bit of it, okay? I mean, our taxes are ridiculous, the money's there, I think that this shit should be taken care of. And also, if that number goes up with the amount of homes, in 2 years, say there's 50 more homes built in the city, does that go up for revoting or to increase the amount to a close to 10%? Is my question.
We'll take,
Do you want clarification for the public comment then just?
well, they asked the question.
Yeah, he asked you a
But
question.
if you prefer to use, go ahead.
Would you like an answer for your question?
Yes, please.
Basically, the language that's in the ordinance allows the commission to come together on an annual basis, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, sometime in December to create a cap. So after we create a cap this year, annually in December timeframe, the commission, who's ever on it, could adjust that cap higher and or low in the future.
Thank you.
Julie Hassey, at 22nd Street. Just one quick thought that I'm having with the idea of building more homes. That's great, and Boyne is building new homes. But because there's new homes, does not mean it's affordable housing for what people coming into Boyne or young families need. I think that needs to be kept very clear that that's two definite things.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jackie Malloy, 919 Miller Drive. I'm just curious, I'm not talking condos. How many residential properties on the lake are short term? Do we know?
In the report,
Well,
Thank you.
that was included in the city commission meeting packet. There's a whole breakdown of what they are in different zoning districts. Anyone else?
Joe Weistrop with 555 Bay Street. It sounds like the ordinance says that this cap will be set in December. It sounds like in the past, you've said that this discussion is going to go in December. As a member of this community, if people are told that it's going to go in December, you guys say, no, let's do it right now. I'm not sure that that's going to be acceptable by the people that might have been here earlier, who might have made plans already to come and discuss this in December. The ordinance says that you'll revisit it every December. If you've said before that this is a number that we're going to give it a year, which will come up in December, I think you have to stick to your word.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, commissioners. We've got to move forward here. So, do we want to schedule a meeting? Have it be at our next city commission meeting? Have it on the agenda, have it be advertised, background information. That'll be a new meeting. We might consider meeting the 7th meeting. Check it out. So, or you want the other option would be just wait until December. And address it then.
or a third option is wait until we hit 110 and as we get close to that 10%, bring it back.
Those are three options we kind of focused on right now. Listening to the comments from the community, I'm kind of thinking it would be good to just set a date where we know when it's going to be happening, and so that we can advertise it and people could, be sure to be here and deal with it, knowing that we reached out to the community and this is going to be a topic of conversation.
Then what I would say that date should be is the second meeting in December, or not December, sorry, October. Okay, you and Tom are still here. We can make it a night meeting. There's plenty of time between now and then for people to get informed is not the right decision or worded, because most of this community has been with us along this path. That gives respect to you and Tom, and that we're close to the date that we promised the community that we would discuss this. And I'm not saying that any decision will be made that night, but I think that if to do it in 2 weeks, I think he's just hurrying us along and not giving people in the community enough time to get it on their calendars and figure it out. And I think that the second meeting in December Second meeting in October, making that a night meeting, that gives this commission plenty of time to understand that we're turning that into a night meeting, because right now, 2 weeks, I don't know what anybody has planned, here, and maybe it doesn't jive. So I think that would be a good compromise for everything. It moves us closer to that December date. It gives this community plenty of time. We can put a yellow sign in every yard in this community. Being facetious, but it can be on every street corner, and so people can be, well informed. They're being informed tonight. Everybody in this room is being informed. They're going to tell all their friends, except for the ones that are going to vote because they don't want to hear them. So they're not going to tell those friends. And so we'll just go on like everything else goes. I think that's a great compromise. And again, thank you, respect to you and Tom. And I don't have a problem with you two, being here and fighting. I'm just saying that we made a promise. I think that we need to get as close to that date as possible.
Okay, so Marty is proposing, the second meeting of October, to change it from a noon meeting to an evening meeting. And that it would be under business at that time. Yeah. Do we have a consensus on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing. I mean, don't get held up on me, but just confidentially that I won't be here for that afternoon.
Or not again.
The 7 p.m. I won't be here.
Will you be here at noon?
As of right now, I'm scheduled to be, yeah.
Let's keep it at noon.
I'm not playing that game because.
Can we do it the first Tuesday, the May meeting, that's a month.
Well, I can do that.
I'm already
Stretching it to the end of the year. I respect that, Marty.
We've already bumped it from December to October, right? 2 weeks.
Oh, no. The question was, I will be.
Oh.
The first.
The first week. Okay.
Sorry.
The second week.
You can have it without me, I don't care.
No, we need all 5 of us.
Then let's make it noon. We can be here then.
How about we make it at noon if that changes,
I have an opportunity to try and reschedule, but I have to make phone calls.
Yeah, well, can we? Can we tentatively set it for that date and we'll let everybody know on our next meeting?
Yeah,
I was trying to give it
one
one
to Excel by the end of the week. It would be October 24th.
At 7 p.m. He's gonna check his information, let me know, then I can let the rest of the commission know and follow. So if that's the case and it goes forward, what we would have on the next agenda, we would need to have a motion to make that meeting, move that meeting, move meeting to a 7 p.m. meeting. Right. But we don't need to do that now, we'll see what Tim comes up with, and go from there.
Okay,
We got it.
moving on.
Thanks, thank everybody.
Old business item B, the public ordinance first reading. Scott.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. At the August 8th, 2023 commission meeting, the commission held a first reading on draft ordinance. After review and discussion, there was consensus of the commission that the ordinance was not at a point that could be moved forward. Direct the staff to make revisions to bring it back for another first reading at public hall. Staff has made changes as directed to the draft. They provided, and the draft provided includes all the additional language with proposed changes, new text, is shown in italics, and the deletions are shown in the strikeout, and I kind of go over the changes that were made with my second. And in section 7443, legislative findings of purpose, the changes, the assumption that bubblers do cause various negative impacts, that bubblers may cause impacts, the specific environmental impact built into the section completed. And ice skating was added as used and redone references to in the winter were deleted. In section 74 definitions, we need to add the definition of completed. In section 74-45, use of bubblers are prohibited without permit. This change was changed to exclude marinas for permit requirements. Section 74-46, bubbler permit and regulations. The change the permit time from 8 months to October 1 through May 31. And change section 2D to specify permit required for bubblers located on the property. Change section 2E to add requirement that the ladder is attached to a pier. And change section 2E2 to add a requirement that a rescue pole have a loop suitable for cold water rescues. Section B, deleted section 2G through I, as each section are following vague. While it's staff's understanding that it's still the commission's desire to mitigate the potential impacts of all its regulations and permitting, the city attorney was asked about ordinances that would or could ban bubblers. And it was confirmed that the city commission does have the ability to adopt ordinance that would ban bubblers. And it could make that ban retroactive. To include any existing locations, or it could just ban any installation of any bubblers. So the process of all ordinance that was presented to the city commission as August 8th, 2023 meeting, first reading. At that time, the city commission determined that ordinance needs staff changes and direct staff to make changes in their schedule first reading. The changes have been made in the first reading scheduled for September 12th. As requested by the commission, staff sent notice to all property owners that have bubblers currently, made them aware that the commission will be discussing this ordinance at this meeting. As required by the Boyne City Charter, ordinance to be adopted at least 1 month after the meetings that produce the next available city commission meeting that meets that requirement. So, and then that commission consider the variance and ordinance and schedules are created.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Is there any comment, questions from the public on the presentation?
Morning, reporting.
Yeah, would you please?
Yeah. Paul, that's 3015 Boyne City Shelter over in Mountain City, but I work for a lot of people that have permanent docks. Part of the search is only 4 home over here by Bay Street. I can work for everybody there, and a couple people that got me here, they asked me stuff I didn't put up. So I haven't had a lot of research to go through the minutes or anything that's on there. And the little notes are, sorry, is individual homeowners have the right to protect their property. They pay big money for these permanent docks. Because number one, it's hard to find out people for the non-permanent docks. If the harbor in the city is exempt from this, what's the reasoning behind that? What's the environmental impact? That you think it's that much of an environmental impact, then you guys shouldn't have to be able to blow yours either. It's just making a few points. There's a lady, I read through a few things that said about the noise buffer. Maybe she should insulate her home. They're not that loud there.
Please. It was 8 months.
So everybody that on that street there, they don't turn them on. Carrie Whalen, I'll call up and say, hey, she's starting to get that flash freeze, it starts coming off the shoreline, you can freeze quickly, then they turn them on. Usually they don't go on. So usually around the 20th of November to the 15th of December. They're shut off, everybody knows what it is up here, the ice is always off late by the 16th of April. And they get shut off. We pull them back up. No more permanent dock on Bay Street is anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. I think those people have the right to have the permanent dock. And some don't have a place to put their boat hoist either, so that protects the boat hoist also from damage. So that's basically what I would say, like I said, and we'll do a bunch of stuff, but that's kind of concern. I think if there's a finer they have to permit, what's that doing for the environmental, and I don't really feel what it is. Anybody that doesn't, has done work in the lakes, I can walk into the bubbler, you can jump on that sucker, you're not going through. You usually have around 6 to 8 inches right there, so you can snowmobile across, I mean, you're not gonna run into the edge or anything else. So, if it's about ice skating or anything else, you guys got the other dock you put in on here off the point, that gets bubbled. Well, people can jump up there and do whatever too. There's no difference. The city should be, or the marinas should not be any better off than anybody else, and treat anything any different. Then the one other point I'll make is some of the people in the Harwich live on the boat all summer long, from May to about mid-September. Well, that's their temporary residential place, because they buy it and pay flotation dues. Well, can they not mobile there either? Back to this time of the marina, they own the slip. I just want to throw a couple points out there, and take your consideration about wiping out this bubble ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind the audience, everyone has the opportunity to speak. It's not appropriate to interrupt, clap, or anything when someone else is talking. I know the emotion can sometimes run high, but it's just not appropriate behavior, or we don't, it gets messy. So please, keep that in mind. Anyone else want to address the commission? If so, please move to the vote motion.
Good evening, I'm Kim Manning, resident of 301 Bay Street, Unit 4. I've been here on numerous occasions. I'm here to address the bubbler ordinance. I'm personally impacted by the bubblers due to my residence on the north side of the lake. I am not here to express only my concerns, but also the impact it has on all our citizens and our visitors to our city in the wintertime. Currently, there are 4 bubblers that I'm aware of on the North Shore. 3 of them are in very close proximity to each other, and the 4th is in a cove. As we are all aware, these bubblers can negatively impact the formation of ice past the owner's property. We have pictures to prove it. Satellite pictures will prove it also. Thus, this violates riparian rights of the adjoining neighbors. And also 5 public accesses that are available to anybody. I reviewed the revised bubbler ordinance and have many comments and questions regarding it. First, the ordinance states that the city commission finds that the use of bubblers on Lake Charlevoix can be a danger due to open water and weakened ice. I'm not sure why we as citizens feel purposely creating open water and thin ice is an acceptable risk for any individual, or the city would want to promote this and create that situation. Secondly, under the section 1 regarding permits and regulations, who would be qualified to provide an engineering report as stated, and how long would that report be valid? Annually, biannually, 10 years, whatever. Also, why is the bubbler permit valid from October 1st when the lake freezes, as he says, in late December or early January? And why are we waiting till May 31st when the lake has been gone for numerous months? I feel the bubblers, if allowed, should not be in use for such an extended period of time. The ordinance doesn't address the number of bubblers allowed on a dock. I think we should investigate the number of bubblers allowed per length of a dock, and also not allow any bubbler placement in the shallow ends of the dock due to the disruption of the lake bottom. We all know that bubblers put at shallow depth of water will significantly impact our lake bottoms. There's documentation in the literature on that. Specifically under 2C of section 2, what is our definition of disruption? I think it's pretty subjective. My interpretation when I read it is that we would not allow water ice to be any different at 5 linear feet than it would be if a bubbler wasn't in place. Not sure if that's what the intent was when this ordinance was revised or not. This would include ice formation, ice thinning, and also the lake bottom disturbance. Another concern about permitting docks by Eagle is are these permits within 5 feet of the property lines? We say we're gonna allow disruption only 5 feet from a bubbler. Are we now on somebody else's property? See what I'm saying? If you put a dock 3 feet from your property line, you're now infringing 2 feet on your neighbors. And that is violating riparian rights. 2E, regarding the safety equipment, is pretty simple. I think all 3 of those items should be on the pier or dock. And the language for the pole is a little bit confusing. 2H, I'm not sure why we totally eliminated riparian rights from the ordinance. Maybe it was because it was redundant with section 2. C. As far as penalties and enforcements, I'm not very knowledgeable on civil infractions.
Excuse
I'm not.
me, your 5 minutes is up. Can you wrap it up?
Yep. In conclusion, I'm not sure logistically this ordinance is enforceable. Bubblers have been banned in several cities and lakes in Michigan, specifically Fenton and Gun Lake. I find it interesting that Gun Lake's ordinance has the exact language for its legislative findings as purpose as we are claiming our purposes here. And they have banned bubblers. So I'm not sure what makes the difference between Gun Lake and Lake Shore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Joe Weiss, Crawford, 555 Bay Street, a couple blocks down, I think, from the 300 block. I'm in the middle of 3 of the 4 bubblers. Not sure about how loud someone else's bubblers are, but ours are, you can hear them if your windows are open, but that's not the air conditioners at our neighbor's house are actually a lot louder than our bubblers. But if it's a nuisance issue, I believe once my neighbor leaves, I will be the only one that lives on that street full time for basically I think 2 times a mile. I know that down in Maple, where John Street comes in, that's 3 times a mile from my house. But and people to the right, I think it's as you get down towards Hill. But in any case, if that's the nuisance. I know as far as if we talk about the issues to the environment. I think that the issue that really is then why are we letting the marinas do it? We're talking 4 houses and the marinas have multiple docks. And if that's the issue, is really an environmental issue. And then, all right, then that can be it. And are we opening this up so we can bring snowmobiles on the lake? And that's not environmental. That's not a safety issue. And the other things that go with it. I know that if I don't turn my dock on, my bubbler on, and within 24 hours, I can actually sit on my dock and take a ice pick and not move the ice. It is very thick, just several feet away from where my dock is. My docks, and the issue would be for clarification, is off my dock, I have actually 4 pilings that are off my dock. And so the question of 5 feet is that 5 feet that I get from my pilings? Because that's what the real expense is, or just 5 feet from my dock. Because my pilings are about 12 feet away from my dock. How am I supposed to clear those? With the issues with it. But that's what I just have to say is those issues that come with it. Most of those issues should be the same, whether it's a residential property or this municipal property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Boyne, 99 Northern Drive, like on the one that started the public problem. Our family has been on this lake since 1960. I'm 1 year old. We're on Lower Lake Drive, and then we went to Bay Street. We have not had ice at 417 Bay Street that has been safe for quite a few years. We have 3 bubblers on Bay Street. The cumulative effect, and let me tell you, I will put these pictures back out. The citizens of the city need to see what damage is done to our shoreline ice. We have none anymore. It's not safe. Lower Lake Drive, where the Prices live, in the back here, they live, what, 3 blocks from that bubbler? They're in a cove. They never will have ice again. I'm from the more down, and we have 5 public access points. People have a right in Michigan to use navigable waters, and this is a navigable lake. And it's winter time, and children can't even get on this lake anymore. They just can't get on it. They come down to the beach on Lower Lake Drive, and no one can enter it. So, navigable waters, they're allowed to walk on the ice, correct? You can't anymore, not like that. It was the child who walked all the way down the village for Arena. You know, there's huge safety issues here. And don't tell me it's not affecting the environment. What happened?
Jackie?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you please just?
I'm sorry.
Anger in your voice.
I know. There's very much anger. I have been walking the streets. You know, the citizens of this town don't even know what a bubbler is. They just think, oh, they have no idea why our ice is in there. They don't come down anymore. They just don't even use the lake. And they've given up, frankly. All the days that I walk around and talk to people, why would we go? No one's listening to us. So I think these things banned. It's not safe. We're going to lose somebody. There was a dog that went in the lake, was it in Traverse City, one of the people that I talked to today, due to poor ice, due to a bubbler, I guess. I don't know. It's something I heard today. But I have pictures. We have rights as the citizens of this state of Michigan to protect this lake. We need to be protecting this lake. You are all charged with the safety of our citizens, and there is no safety right now with these bubblers that are creating open water. Thank you. I have pictures here. Everybody like to look at.
We have the pictures on file. The community wants to come in and look at them, just.
Maybe somebody here or so. 2 years ago, I gave 2 years ago. Y'all can come and look at this. And they're all dated, and you can see all of Lower Lake Drive. No one's been on the ice in a long time.
Sandy Pritchard, 526 East Lincoln. I noticed that there's a considerable softening of the words. I understand taking out in the winter. I'm not sure why we would remove, it says bubblers also, and it's struck through interfere with and may have negative impacts on the ecology and environment of Lake Charlevoix, as ice is necessary for the lake habitat to regenerate during the winter. That's a fact. Documented. Why are we removing it? It is part of the purpose. And the softening again is bubblers are not struck through inherently dangerous. I'm pretty sure that's established. I know we talked about also the high water mark as not being something that we could figure out, when in fact that's on every property deed. It may not be something that's right there at your fingertips, but under G of section 74-46. The high water line is, an ordinary high water line, it's known, it's marked. The language on the riparian rights, I think something that needs to be respected, and I'm not exactly sure what the right wording in there, but as to, because unreasonably is hard to define. But the distance issue, I think, is something that should be addressed, as has been pointed out. That it shouldn't infringe on the riparian rights of another property, just because somebody refuses to have a vote in a big area. I agree with striking I don't know how you measure the impact on the flora and the fauna. The bottom line is, this is the step in the right direction. And some good work, but I think we need to put back in some of the meat. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lisa Price, 931 Lower Lake Drive, and we are the neighbor to Cary Whalen, and the bubblers are very, very noisy. My house is very well insulated, has nothing to do with insulation. It's very hard to sleep in that room because it is that loud. And also, we are not allowed to use our ice skating rink that we would love to have, because it's wide open all the way past our house into where the city lies, where kids would probably love to go ice skate also. There's nothing there if they went through the ice, there's no throw rings, nothing, and I think that's something that probably all the city lots should have, because of their kid. We also have the big sewer drain that sticks, this high out, you see the kids playing on all this food. There's just a matter of time before it's gonna get enough LG on there as well, they're gonna slip and fall, smack their head, and then who's gonna be there to maybe help them or give them a toss train, because sometimes the kids are young and they come down there by themselves. And there's nothing there, and I just think that'd be another good thing for every beach area to have. If it's on a post or debris, you see them a lot, on beaches everywhere, but we don't have anything like that. And again, there's no one that can come down there and use that area at all. And I think it's wrong. We love the ice skate. We have boxes of ice skates that we can't use from when we moved from downstate up here, because we didn't have that down there with the bubblers. And it's a nuisance, and it's not safe for our lake at all. And it's just not comfortable where someone does, go under, and no one's gonna be there to save them. And again, it's mostly for me, the noise of them, and not being able to use my portion of the lake. Pay a lot of taxes to live here for a lake that I can't use.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we can move to the commission, comment, organization.
Yes, sir. Scott, thank you for your hard work on this. My only question is, the young lady brought up about the October 1st through May 31st. The vote being valid, one of those times. Is there a reason why it was neck down a little bit, say?
Because the original ordinance had 8 months. So I just picked an 8-month period that seems fine. If you want to whittle it down, that's fine. I was just thinking of a period of people getting able to get in and get their permits. So, yeah. That time frame can be anything you think it's logic.
I got a question for George and Paul.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the bubblers. I think my interpretation is when they are installed too high, they create lots of noise.
They create a little bit more, right?
So what is the problem? 2 foot below water, 3 foot below water, half, that's my question. If they're installed correctly, you refer to this on the cell arm, you don't hear them at all.
Well, I can do for like the prices here is, as we all know, all the waterways drops usually. We drop 12 inches, we drop 15 inches. So when we install things, let's say I come back and say, okay, I can go ahead and drop it down the water for, if that happens, where does it cause as much splash and kick out as much? So like when we talk about homeowners and I say, okay, we might have to come back, just do some adjustment probably through the winter. I don't have a problem with that. So usually like about 2 feet down, but when you get towards the shoreline, even like those carries last year, there wasn't enough water until I got out halfway down our dock. Cause it ended up stirring up too much sand, so they got a lot of power from them. They can run about $75 a month to run per bubbler. For what they draw on a half horsepower bubbler. But usually you want, about 18 inches over the top, there's a point where you go down too much, won't draw gas out enough either, so you're trying to fight that fine line.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, that's my experience too.
Okay. So in our ordinance, it talks about, proper installation. I would hope proper installation would take care of 90% of the noise. And that, the neighbors do not deserve to hear a blower for 3 months or 6 months. I agree. I don't think we need to ban bubblers. I think we need this ordinance is right down the right track. We're talking about signage, we're talking about a safety ring, we're talking about a safety pole, and we're talking about proper installation of the bubblers. And all of that refers back to what I said last month. I think people have the right to protect their own property. And so I'm in favor of moving forward. I'm in favor of the permit process. I'm in favor of what is stated, how we clean this up. So agree that maybe we need to narrow that window. October 1st, there's not a very, the bubblers to be honest. Maybe 1 out of 100 years ago, but I'd like to move forward. I'd like to obviously make it safer and make it quieter.
Yeah, is there? So the whole permitting process, like when we did the short-term rental with licensing, can they lose a permit if they're not in compliance with this ordinance?
Well, the ordinance doesn't have an enforcement provision, and if you're violating the ordinance, then you'd be following. Like a civil infraction, with that infraction, you can request an enforcement order, which could, could say you pull your bubblers or you're not violating. So that potentially, yeah, someone would not get it.
Do we have an opportunity to structure something like that within our ordinance? Because like tonight is a perfect example of short-term rental issue, right? Where for a year, we've been talking about all these nuisance and issues. And then we had one issue with trash cans going out on Mondays when they're doing their turnover, trash isn't getting picked up thinking Wednesday or Thursday, and I said, something like that. So it sit there for 5 or 6 days. Basically, that person's gonna reach out to you, you're gonna send out notifications to that agent or who's ever managing that STR. If they don't become compliant, they're going to lose their license and they won't be able to utilize it as an STR at some point in time. Do we have something like that within, do we have the ability to structure something like that? So then you're making an incentive for these people that are paying money to protect their private property, do it within a means of,
It is a license.
right, right.
So they'd be in violation of their permit, and that would be a civil infraction, so, and then the corrective action would be through that enforcement.
Okay, so there is an opportunity for them to lose their permit essentially.
Yeah, if you're violating your permit, then, you have to remove the violation.
And then why would, well, what was the, because I wasn't here at that meeting the last time you guys went through the first reading of this, what was the intended reason to not change anything with the streets? Or for this to not impact marinas?
And that was from a lot of the input from the marina holders and the difference of a marina to a private dock, of what their license is different, they operate different, they're protecting public infrastructure. The whole dynamic is much different than, a private dock being installed. So the commission directed that to have that difference, and have them not subject to permitting.
Are they less environmentally impact, impact?
I don't believe environmental impact of bumpers in either case.
And then in regard to Joe's question, and the pilings and the 5 foot, or the 5 feet, would it go from the structure of the dock surface, or would it go from the pilings?
The ordinance said. From the pier or the structure protected by the bubbler. So whatever that bubbler is protecting, it would be 5 foot from that.
Comment on that?
Sure, you have problem clarification?
On that permit, we had to make sure that we understand it's also because of the temperature changes. So, sometimes you need to find something like that, someone does have a warm week, but still a little, basically, so actually it might work out with some, so maybe past that 5 foot, so there has to be some, give or take on that.
Yeah, it's understood that there's gonna be fluctuations with temperature and things like that, so. The amount of reasonableness is gonna have to be used in applying and administering the ordinance.
Those are the only questions I had marked down.
Yeah, first off, in the beginning, again, Scott, good job in putting something together after our conversations. And I think it was said that, some of the stuff that was taken out was softening. I think we took out the conjecture. That's what I was following. I think there's too many areas that were very gray, and I, have no desire to get into, get the city into, legal, complications for overstating, understating. I had wrote down on my notes before the meeting even, I understand where you're coming from, so I guess maybe we need 2 different time frames. A time frame for your permitting, but there's no reason. I think we should have a restriction that, this may appease some people, it might not appease many, it may appease some, might not appease it. But I think, I don't, there's no reason for a bubbler to be in the water before December 1st. We don't even see ice. I've lived there all my life, and we don't see ice at the early onset, toward the mid-December. And then, it's well gone. Anything that is going to damage or affect long before the statement was made in middle April. So I had on mine December 1st to May 1st. As far as when these things could operate, you can put them in July if you want. Can't turn them on until December 1st. I think we can tighten that. I understand your timing for permitting. You can run that year round, that wouldn't bother me. But those dates were stated a couple of times. We talked about the distancing, with the reason we pulled some of the riparian rights stuff out is because we're, those are things that, we can't cross over. No, that's a neighbor's mind, so, at that point in time. I think one thing that we're missing on 2B is, only one permit is required. Even, never minding the number of bubblers, but I think if we're gonna add a permit, why wouldn't we say how many bubblers we can have?
Yeah, the permit would, they would have to identify all the bubblers that would be used.
Okay, well, it says only one permit irrespective of the number of bubblers. So I was.
Right, so, but the intent is that all bubblers that would be used would be shown on that permit.
Okay.
application. So-
Okay, gotcha. It was just kind of vague and how I haven't said that. And then, yeah. George, you're the diver and the big water guy on our commission to get, I agree, that's where the soft, the environmental impact and stuff, I mean, conjecture. But the shallow areas, I mean, is there a reason to have, anything, way in towards shore? I guess it would be my question. And at that point in time, I think you are possibly affecting the environment. I think Tom touched on it early. This was one of my concerns is that I think probably one of the biggest things that is not, or that a lot of people are upset about, is because they aren't placed. I can't say properly, okay? Because I understand that the lake fluctuates, but I think that it's something that could be, there should be a depth, maybe stated and tried to be adhered to. Okay, nobody, let's be clear, nobody from the city is gonna go out on all these docks and take these measurements daily, weekly, and monthly. We're not getting into that. We're trying to make something where everybody can be happy, if you will. Some people aren't gonna be happy, that's probably not the right word. We're trying to have some middle ground here. So I think it's been stated that, the level of where that is, I think is a big, and does have an impact on, the noise and everything. Obviously, if it's, I mean, perfect example, anybody in here on a boat? Okay, tell me your trip. When that thing's coming up, you're hearing that thing like crazy. When it's all the way down in the water, you're not hearing it like crazy. So, okay, give a guess, but, so they're probably the best example of, how a bubbler, could maybe appease more. So, I don't know, I'm not trying to change it to have a depth, because I don't know what that depth is, but I'm just throwing that out there that, I think that's probably one of the things that, maybe we could talk about. But those were the main things, that I had, and then the last question was, so, like any other permits that we have. This commission, the next commission, any commission here forward, can revisit it at any given point in time and add, detract, whatever, correct? Yeah, okay.
I've got one more
Thanks, Mayor.
thing to say about that.
Wait, you're on the board. We're with the commission.
Okay, so I just have one more question, I'll give you the time whenever you're ready.
What is your question?
My question is the only way to regulate them by the depth? Or is there a control where you can turn them up or turn them down? There's no control on, okay, that was my only question. That seems like that would be a great thing.
There are different size boulders.
The size, just how you can have it, lower, how you know, Yeah, there's that 3-foot kind of size, so they're very worth.
Okay, Scott, what's been discussed so far, you know, changing the dates of the bubbler when it's, you know, by December 1st to May? Is that significant enough that we can continue to pass it on first reading here?
I don't think that's that change, no.
There was also something under item section 74-2 for the definitions. Those or other structures protected by the bubbler is disrupted. Is there any way to kind of clarify just what that means without getting into too much?
I mean, can't think of any other,
So you think it's understood by?
yeah, I mean, this is the draft ones that's been debated about others that we use, so.
The other thing I wondered about, people give the permit, right?
They get the permit from here.
Yeah, is there any way to kind of like meshing something together that when that permit is issued? What they need to do with bubblers and how they kind of like we get in out here.
They do not regulate bubblers, they do not review bubblers. I spoke with the Eagle representative in this area on this issue, and they said they can, you know, forward those permit applications to us to make sure we're aware that something's been issued. But they will not, apply or make people aware of what our ordinances are, because they have several that they would have their.
So if someone like myself who knows very little about bubblers, could that be assumed that Eagle doesn't think that they're causing environmental damage? If they were causing.
They indicated that they, unless they're touching the bottom, that they didn't have any concerns about damage.
And I do appreciate all the work that's gone into this, it's, you know, something that we don't deal with all the time. I've done a great job here. It seems like we've always got anything. Certainly from one of the comments that I heard, so I entertain, I'm sorry, public discussion is over with. If we have the opportunity, we offer it. Unless there's something new that you can bring to, we need to draw to the close.
I guess you said it. I asked if this is disruption, and is this enforceable? What is the disruption?
Okay.
What is the disruption? We need to know that before this moves forward.
So commissioners, here we are. Anybody want to make a stab at a motion? I would attempt to just get something out on the table that would be okay, that we approve the bubble ordinance as presented with the changes that had provided us. That the dates are changed from the December to December 1st through May. That there be some clarification if possible to disrupt it, because that's maybe that Eagle could be contacted. Just have a better description of what that means. Okay. Tom, we did, they were to cover pretty much everything that you were supportive of.
Yes. Yes, it was the sign. The ladder, the hook, and the ring.
That's under E.
And proper installation. That's the key there. And that's left open to interpretation on how it's installed, because we can't say 2 feet below and put it below. I think it has to be to proper installation.
Okay. Is that enough for a motion, Jessica? Did you get that?
Better description.
It would be the dates. Let's see.
To approve the bubble ordinance as presented, with the date changes to December 1st to May 1st, and a better description of.
Item, it would be 74-46, budget permit and regulation to item C. Disrupted.
Need a second?
I do.
Second?
Second. Is there any further discussion, Commissioner?
Did your motion, say, move it on to the
Second reading in, the second meeting of October. Was that the earliest? That's the earliest, yeah.
October 24th, 2023 earlier.
Okay, roll call, please.
Carlson,
Aye.
Moody,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for the input. Okay. I'd like to take a break for 5 minutes. It's 9:25. So I'd like to go 9:30. Sorry. 9:31. Moving on to item 10A, new business, Boyne City Housing Commission property transfer request. Mike, are you going to take a lead on that, or is Bethany?
The commission would like to have reviewed my memo, or if we've already reviewed it, you can go directly with that, and what's the commission preference. I would already do that, yeah.
Bethany, did you please introduce yourself?
Yes, Beth Hedgepath, Wednesday Housing Commission. If you don't mind, I have a couple of things for you guys, for later, but if you want to know, you can. Some clarification on what RAD is. It's directly from HUD, because there was a question I know on what exactly we're talking about, and I would. Okay, so I guess, do you have questions? I don't know if you want me to go over anything.
No, I think it would be good if you could summarize what your request is and why.
Sure, so Housing Commission created, in 1969, housing, Litzberger replaced the scattered sites and then added it later. One of the things that happened is there was not a ability at that time for the municipal, or for the Housing Commission to own the property because of stuff that I don't understand. Honestly, I've tried to read into it, it's really confusing. What happened is basically because the city was given the ability to create the housing commission, the city's name was on the properties. But there's also what's called a HUD declaration of trust on the properties, so ultimately, the city really didn't own it, it was just kind of a name. We have maintained the housing commission since 1969, we have managed it, we have funded it, there's been, as far as I know, besides the fact that there was no additional pilot put on properties, the city does not fund anything with the housing commission. Basically, we're asking that the titles are put into the housing commission's name for all the properties that we own that are not in the name and that have been managed by us. And the reason for that is because we are looking at doing what's called a RAD conversion, which is a rental assistance distribution. I think that's demonstration. I just call it acronyms, as everybody knows. But what that basically means, and I do have more if anyone wants any more information, it's basically a way for us to get money into the properties to be able to rehab and to do more housing. I think I've spoken pretty vocally about needing to grow the housing, and the only way that's gonna happen is with a RAD conversion. Biggest thing for that is we have a lot of communications for the residents. The handout is basically what we give to the residents. Because it would, obviously, what is it gonna do to them? We will be having a lot of meetings, but our first step in that is we have to be able to either have the city's name off the titles, or the city will have to sign all the RAD paperwork and be hands-on with the entire process. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't have to do it, I would recommend it, because it is a lot of paperwork that it would kind of hamper our ability to get anything done. It does not have any tax, you're not gaining taxes from it now, you're not going to gain taxes from it in the future, it's a tax-free site, all of ours is. However, there will be possibility in the future of, if we were to do some of these conversions, we will be building more properties, which could have a pilot put on. Unless the city was nice that allowed us to have zero pilot, which that's for another day. But ultimately, what we're asking is for, to be able to start the process and have the city's name taken off of the titles. And which is what he placed in the right wording. What might put in there.
And Mike, the city attorney has reviewed.
Yes, they've had discussion with Bethany already. The recommendation, if the commission did want to go forward with this, would be to have any agreements or transfers be subject to final review by the city attorney. And at this point, that would be kind of stuff.
Fourth. Yeah, right, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Bethany.
And we do have up on the map, on the wall, a map that shows the properties that were in the county.
Any immediate questions for Bethany before we get into the further discussion?
Not about it, I got some from mine.
I'll be right back.
We don't get a public person.
Yeah. So is there any public comment on the request of the housing commission to take title of these properties? Does any,
Deputy Jason, I'm on the commission, and I would totally recommend that you proceed with the titles, switched over to the housing commission. We're trying to do some things, and this would facilitate that for us.
anyone else? Okay, we can move to commission deliberation. Tom, you want to start?
I think Danny said it properly, it's the process of housekeeping, legalities, clean it up, so the housing commission, we don't throw any barriers from the future development. I'm in favor.
I'm in full support, reading through the memos and, the material that was in the agenda pack is pretty self-explanatory. I think you're doing a great job at the housing commission. The only thing is, I just got a few questions for Mike, more so out of curiosity. It shows in here that basically all but one municipal has chosen to do this. What would be the reasoning behind what would be the downside to the city releasing this? Is there any negative aspect to
Is the
this?
city releasing it?
Yeah, getting their name off in the.
No, there's no downside that I can see at this point. When Bethany first brought this matter to our attention, probably about a year or so ago, one of my concerns was to make sure that in doing these transfers, that we didn't lose properties that are basically providing support or opportunities for people to live in at various levels. And it looks like the opportunities that are coming up with here is a way to improve and potentially expand the offerings that the housing commission has and still serve the same range of clients that they serve now. So my main concern at the beginning was, okay, we don't want this just privatized and with up to market rates or things of that nature. It looks like this is a tool not good. So I don't know why, I mean, there's no downside that I'm aware of.
Okay, that was the only thought process that I had, and I didn't know the clarification behind if this would transition potentially in the future and have the ability to transition to privatize.
And that's something, that's a question that I think back to Bethany, her indications to me, and I think in the materials has been, no, it'll always stay this way forever. That, going through the rad is not just something after 10 or 15 years and all of a sudden it can then go by. It sounds like this is going to be lacking for perpetuity. But again, that's a better question for her to address.
Okay.
Yeah, so, the biggest thing, the most important thing is that the housing commission, in the end, our view is that we need to be considered like, property managers. Ultimately, we won't own any physical property, but we will always own the land.
Okay.
So, for instance, Litzenberger, all the family housing, no matter what we do to that, the land will always be ours. And that will, whether there's choices to not make it ours, that will never be a choice that I choose to make. Because, so for instance, the houses, let's say we decide to do a home ownership program to the homeowners, we will own the house and it will have deed restrictions on that land. So that is our goal, and we're actually looking at even expanding that. But the housing commission will always be the housing commission. We just won't have the physical units. It'll be under kind of like Deer Meadows is a tax credit unit, and it's under the BCHC nonprofit housing corporation. That's what it will end up being, is we will be a partner with ourselves. And then, yes, there'll be tax credit 15 years, there will be an investor involved. But I heard our conversation a year ago, which I think you were involved in that, is we said, we don't want other ownership, other management involved. And so our goal is we will be managing that. I have talked, one of the comment about one other municipality, Amanda Shaughnessy, the HUD council, had stated one, and I asked her, why would they do it? She said they had a very contentious commission that did not want, they didn't understand. And now they've since done it because they had to sign all the red paper, they had to do all these things, and they were like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And now they have since gotten rid of it. Because it doesn't, all it does is just attaches you to something you have really no control over. Besides compliance, and who wants more compliance than you already have?
Right.
You know, so with that, yeah, so that's basically it, but ultimately it's gonna be the commission and our commission and myself. Making sure forever that it's in our name and it's owned, and the original right now will always be, because that's how it was. That's how HUD decided it.
Okay. So with the way the structure is going to be, would it be correct to assume that this could never transition out of the ownership of the Boyne City Housing Commission without the Boyne City Housing Commission's board's approval?
Yes.
Okay. Or would
Yes,
it be
and-
the sole director would have the ability, it would come down to the commission, correct?
Correct, so ultimately what will happen is the boards of the nonprofit housing corporations will be appointed by our commission. And so it'll always come back to the housing commission. Which is how it's been with Deer Meadows, and there's no real. Nobody's going to be able to make decisions and get around it. Now, the only way that that could happen is if the city got involved because something was going on, but again, there's not gonna be that need because there's not property owned. There's not physical building, so,
Correct.
you know, so it's just basically protecting that property to always be affordable.
Okay.
Forever.
Gotcha, thanks for the clarification. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with this. It's, we have no say right now. Anyhow, so I mean, it really just makes complete sense to put this where it should have been, you know, for all these years. Thanks for answering the question. My biggest concern, which I had a chance to ask Mike, was if, you know, if there was any tax implications, not for us, but, you know, for the housing commission, because, you know, if there wasn't gonna be anything that was gonna harm, that it didn't make any sense. But taking this out of the loop, that we didn't have a say in the loop, that just makes total sense anyhow. So I'm you know, full support of this and trying to get around you know, other rules and guidelines. I have full faith that it's not gonna go anywhere
I'm good, thank you, better.
Yeah, I'm good as well. But I just wondered if it'd be good at sometime in the next few months that you come with the developers that you're working with to give people an idea of really what the spread is all about, what potential there is, and you know, maybe it could be brought into a community meeting, because there are things that have great potential to see for it. So
Yeah, we will be doing that a lot in the future, and also there'll be some Deer Meadows stuff that we don't have to make as public, but we plan on, because it is involving a lot of families, people that maybe even in this room that have family that lives there. So that is a huge goal of ours, is transparency and exciting housing opportunities. So.
okay, well, I'm going to make a motion for the housing commission property transfer request.
I'll make a motion that the city commission approve the request of the Boyne City Housing Commission to transfer title of requested housing commission operated properties to them, and authorize the city manager and city clerk treasurer to execute any necessary documents to implement the transfer after city attorney review and approve the housing commission covering all costs associated with the transfer of the property.
Okay, is there a second? Second. There's a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jessica.
Moody.
Aye.
Aye.
Bassett.
Aye.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There.
Have a good night.
Jessica, I see you're wearing a coat.
It got cold in here. It did, it got really cold.
You make it.
Okay, I will. Okay, moving on, we have the new business item B, compensation commission recommendation. Jessica?
All right, so last week, the compensation commission met, they meet every November year. They are going to meet, during that meeting, there was, this discussion about, the time that the commission was in, not only for the meetings, but prepare for the meetings and to be involved. And there were 3 people in attendance, and they all agreed that the compensation needed to be increased. The recommendation was to increase it by $500 each, which is currently set at $32.50 for the mayor, for the $700 for each commissioner annually. So that increase would be $3,750 for the mayor and $3,200 for commissioners. And then we also put in a motion for you guys to be able to modify it.
Okay. Thank you. Any, input from the public? Comments, questions? Okay. Yeah, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So I actually attended this meeting, as a member of the public. And the board's conversation was, pretty good balanced conversation. At one point they asked kind of my feedback as a member of the public. And I gave them my feedback. My feedback essentially was, and prior to the meeting, Cindy Banner reached out to me, one of the members of this compensation commission, and asked me kind of to give her a range of hours that I commit to the city commission. I gave her a range. Some meetings go long, some meetings don't go long, attending MML things, doing the Sault Ste. Marie things, which aren't, technically requirements, but I feel it's my obligation for the role that I'm in to be part of those, grab some information from the MML, and understand how it can be more impactful in my community and the role that I'm in. So my feedback was essentially, none of us are up here doing this for the money or for the finances that come to this role. We're more committed to the community in a whole than obviously the finances that comes with these roles. But my feedback was, it's very apparent on other boards and commissions, the struggle it is to get engagement within the community, from skillful leadership. And so they asked me kind of a dollar amount. I told them I don't think it was appropriate for me to provide a dollar amount, and the dollar amount came generically amongst themselves. My piece to the conversation was, obviously I'm not here for the money, but when asked potentially if I would ever run again, or if I plan on running in the future, one thing that I have to take into consideration is evaluating if I have the ability to make the sacrifices that come with choosing to be here on this board. Especially at my age and where I'm at in my career, it does come with sacrifices. It does take time and energy to be able to go to these MML things and these other, like the community exchange, to be able to be impactful. So I think the dollar amount that they came up with is appropriate, and I support it. And that's my input. One other thing in the conversation was, they brought up, they questioned why the commission voted down the last increase that they presented to the commission. Again, I was the feedback that I provided was, I just became elected. And I brought in Mike's raising that and the public's reaction to that, and then I did not look at it, and I thought, I'm not stupid, I'm not gonna put myself out in a public lynching opportunity and vote myself a raise if they won. And so that was a talking point. They did review the ordinance, and obviously the timeline is adjustable, and that's why it is here today. So that was a question they had on why it was turned on last time.
A lot of what you said, I mean, I'm glad that they changed their timeline, or maybe they didn't change their timeline so much, but it at least, having this conversation before, new candidates, are possibly put in place that's just not even fair. If anybody's, Sandy's the only one that's here that's running, but if anybody else is running, I would say if you're doing this for the money, or dead, You know, Tom said it the last time when we had this conversation, that, you know, that it works out to a lot less than $10 an hour, I can tell you that. So, yeah, you're not doing it for the money. And learning what you learn, when you sit here, it definitely is different for sure. So I don't have a problem with it. I think that we need to make sure that what happened to the three of us, Tim, George and I, never happens again, in being voted in and having vote like that, you know. I'm not saying you know, if it would have been, you know, if it still would have been around the same time, I still would have had the same answer, like, because, you know, you don't. But yeah, it's their recommendation, and, you know, there's a lot of time there for years.
Okay, thanks, Mark. George?
Marty and Tim have said it. Good.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. It was totally not fair that your first meeting, the first agenda item was to give yourself a raise. That just didn't work. But to date, this year, I've had 25 meetings to date related to city commission. That includes 2 full days of exchange day, the Sioux. It includes a day and a half full days of budget development. It includes 1 or 2 full days training with Michigan Municipal League. It includes a half-day seminar with Northern League of Economic Alliance. So I'm retired, but you guys, I mean, that's 5 full days that you're missing, plus 25 meetings today. So it's, as Mark said, we're not doing it for the money, but every little bit helps to create fair pay for good quality candidates.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the recommendation, so I entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation from the compensation commission to increase the compensation by $500, setting the annual amounts at $3,750 for mayor, $3,200 for commissioners, as provided by the city ordinance Alpha-78.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jessica.
Leadhammer.
Aye.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Moody. Motion carried.
Okay, item C under new business, 2023 Kaiser study contract award.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Commissioner. Almost good morning. Couple more minutes here. So, this is for the Baker study, obviously. City has requested that C2AE, our engineers, provide us with an estimate to perform a Kaiser study to determine and assess the overall condition of our roads. This is one of the many services provided by our engineering firm, and obviously C2AE is here to answer questions. They have provided this service to the city of Boyne in the past. Due to the passing of time, it's important to get an updated condition assessment to better serve city staff and determining the best approach in scheduling repairs and maintenance to approximately 47 miles of streets here within Boyne City. The service provided by our engineering firm will be charged to the streets and maintenance account under major and local budgets, or major and local streets and this year's budget. It is my recommendation that the city commission award a purchase order contract for C2A for the 2023 Kaiser study in an amount not to exceed $11,500 per the bid updated 8/29/2020. Further, I recommend city manager execute that. There's here for it, so any questions?
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Eric, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing in addition, I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the public on the 2023 Kaiser study contract award?
Anyone there?
No.
Okay, Sandy Pritchard, 526 East Lincoln Street. The city requested that it be C2AE. Again, there are multiple firms that offer the service, and in the case of fiscal responsibility, I don't understand why it's not competitively bid. I did take a look at it. It speaks in the proposal, the state scope of work about use of the software that Michigan Tech has developed. And by the way, that software is free, as is the training provided by the Michigan Department of Transportation. So I'm of the mindset that it helps us as a community to build some of those skill sets within our own ranks. The city then can download the software for its own use along the way. But it has many other, the software that's involved has many other assets in it. In terms of asset management. And helps with our strategy and budgeting going forward. Because it has the ability to do some proactive data. And helping us assess our infrastructure, everything from line striping to pavement marking to mapping our city pipes. I think there's two there.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess I look at it from the standpoint again of avoiding recurring costs, but also helping us manage our city assets and the infrastructure more thoroughly. And if you just spend it in it at the website of roadsoft.org, you'll see what I mean. It's a tool that Doug could embrace and also help with his own department. So I'd say look a little bigger at this. Maybe this is a good year to go along with the proposal. I noticed that they talked about evaluators of being, I think D2AE, it's a laptop-based thing. He suggests a member of the city staff be along. I think that should be mandatory. I would go further and suggest that there should be or could be a citizen that participates. Roads and road construction and budget allocations are a hot topic. Kind of joked about it, tree commission and having a road commission. I think this would be a good opportunity to put a citizen in their car. And possibly even getting one of the MTU students in the car with, just as a consideration. But I guess looking beyond just the task at hand, because it is important, and people do get testing on how roads get evaluated and how the scores ended up. I would suggest that we look bigger at the software and the ability to grow skills in our own. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we can move to commission deliberation. Martin, you want to get started?
Yeah, you probably don't want to hear me, but as I've already opined on this before, so who did the 2019 study? I know you weren't here. Was it Ted Bosser?
Yeah.
Okay, now, I know we talked about it, wasn't assisted by C2A or anybody else.
We've had T2A do it in the past, and then, as Tim got situated, he went in for the training.
Okay.
And then was able to do the 19 and 21. I would assume that we would do something similar with Doug going forward. Right now, with all the things he has on his plate, if we're looking for, just to get done for the, help us with the next budget, this seemed to be the best way to go.
Gotcha. I mean, but we've already had this conversation that, you know, there was quite a few. I'll just use the word fails. I think that there was, you know, the sightings on, especially the 21 is just ludicrous in a lot of different areas on quite a few of these streets. And a lot of them we talked about when we were talking about what needed to be done on what we said, you know, we were going to approve 2 months ago. So you know, we knew that we were going to be talking about this a little bit, but I can't agree more. Nothing against C2A, but it just, you know, if they helped him, is what you're telling me, and I'm not saying it was you or whatever. I want to reach out, I want to try to, you know, figure something else out, because I don't think these were adequate by any means. I think there was, you know, I think there might be somebody else that can, you know, give us better insight. I guess is the bottom line. And if we're gonna bet all our pennies on this map, it's what we did, you know, in saying what needed to be done a couple of months ago, then I want it to be accurate. And it wasn't even anywhere near accurate. We had long arguments about that 2 months ago. So or I did. I'll say that there. Yeah. And I just I wouldn't I don't want to keep going down the same paths that the city keeps going down and nothing seems to change in some different ways. And so that's my opinion on it. I would like to have some options. I would like to hear, you know, who else could do this. You and I talked about this. You opined on it too, Doug, you know, when we were talking about those streets. You know, and there are aspects out there, and I guess I'd like to see and hear of that. And again, nothing against C2A.
Yeah, Doug, was it put out for any other bids?
Our engineers are the sole person who gave us the yes.
So, but other people give you the option, were you given the opportunity?
No.
So.
And if you have the software, this RoadSoft software, how long is the training to be proficient with it? Say for you or one of your staff?
I have no idea. I have looked at the software, I could probably take a mailer course and become a lawyer too, but we have to say, the attorney stuff. I like to hire engineers to do engineer stuff. This is an engineer stuff thing, that's the way I look at it. Any case or study in any city I've ever been is done by engineers, because you can have me do it, sure. But guess what, right, you're complaining 2 years, the same way you're complaining about the guy who's not here anymore, spots. That's the way I look at it, that's my 2 cents. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, I support Doug. This concept that I think you said it best, we trust our department heads who have the education, the experience, the knowledge. He says, let's go with our firm that has treated us well. We've developed a relationship with C2AE and they treated us well. And you said it right, you know, we're complaining about what Tim did. Okay, so let's go get professional, experienced company to do this for us. And it makes total sense. We complained about the result, the study that we had. Let's go, and the request was, let's go out and redo this process. And here we are, we're redoing this process with our in-house street superintendent and our in-house engineering firm that will do us right. And it's money well spent. So I support the bid.
Thanks, Tom. Tim?
So I got a couple questions. I guess I'll just make a blanket statement right from the beginning. It's not about trust or anything. I trust you, Eric. I don't have a reason to not personally. Same thing with you, Doug. But it is my responsibility to try and make the right decisions. When it comes to financial, fiscal responsibility, that's a commitment I made. So I'm just gonna go through my questions real quick. Doug, is this within the budget for the current year approved?
Yes.
Will this delay any other projects, or will this won't impact any other scheduled road maintenance projects, correct? This will be utilized for future scopes?
Future scopes, correct.
Okay, how often, and this is a question for you, Eric, as an engineer, how often should a municipal government be having these phaser ratings done.
Yeah, this came up last time I was here.
Yep.
And, I think I had said something like 3 to 5 years, actually, based on federal aid roadways every year. That's a different category than what our proposal is talking about. The local streets, it's, recommended that, the local agencies submit it once a year. But it's not a requirement like it is for the federal aid roadway. So, you know, it's a little subjective, but I think it's more realistic, like in the probably every couple of years time for the local streets. The federal aid highway has to be done every year.
Okay. So I'm just writing that down, because I, like you said, last time you did say 3 to 5 years, so I'm just comparing notes for a picture.
To your point, Macomb County got half their money in grants. This is the other one.
Okay. So if we don't get the, and this is a question for you, Doug, Mike chime in with your feedback. The commission, because this is always a concern of mine, and I consistently bring it up. If we don't take action now, if we don't get phaser ratings done now, with this, do we put anything at risk in next year as far as scheduling road maintenance and preventative maintenance with next year's budget? Or do we still have a window?
We still look at the same already criticized map that we have from Texas. That's what we go, with. That's the standard, that's what you use. Up to you guys, I mean, yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna, well, one thing that I'm very consistent about too is bidding. When it comes down to any department, the chief, the fire department, EMS, every single time it comes down to picking up tree limbs at the cemetery, whatever it is. And I get it, and I understand, and I rationalize. There's been more than a handful of times in this last year when we've done requests for proposals or requests for bids or whatever it is, and literally only one bid comes in. That gives me a podium to stand on. My two flags when I'm out on the public talking about fiscal responsibility and talking about the budgeting process. Yes, we did go out for bids and only one firm or one engineer or one consultant came back with a bid. Is there a specific reason why we did not want to do a bid process for this?
Yes, because the city commission over the years, on numerous occasions, has reviewed the performance of C2AE and felt that the relationship and the value that we get from them is warranted not going out for bids. And those types of professional services, there are no requirements to do that. Doesn't mean you can't go out for bids, but there's no requirements for going out for bids. That's why for all of our engineering work, C2AE is the go-to firm that we use. Very similar to city attorneys. We hired them years ago, and we don't basically bid that out per project or per lawsuit or whatever the legal investigation is. Doesn't mean you can't get another attorney for certain things, but professional services are things that were carved out under state law that they don't have the same requirements.
Right.
Again, the option is still up to the city as to what it wants to do.
Okay, but I want you to rationalize with someone that's sitting here as a commissioner, not for 20 years, but for the first year, second year, okay? And I understand, and I can tell you from my roles of senior salary management, when I walked into, and it was like, well, this is how we've always done it. And I hear that, I hear what you're saying. But the background you're sharing with me is not the personal experience I have in this role. And so that's why I've been very consistent with the bidding process. And I understand that it's not a requirement. I know we bring it up to you specifically a lot when it's not a requirement. But like I said, it gives me $11,500. I don't know if that's here. I don't know if that's here, and I don't know if that's here, because I haven't been doing it for 20 years. And I don't have that relationship with C2AE. Not that I don't want to have it, but I'm speaking from my position here right now. I either trust you, and I'm gonna be blunt and honest, there's times where I've taken feedback that has been incorrect, and I've been put on the spot. So those are the concerns. The bidding thing popped out to me right away, not because I believe we can get it done, but because it's how I can baseline my experience. And really stand on my two front legs when someone comes to me and says, oh, you spent X amount of dollars and X amount of thing, I can say, hey, look, we did a bid proposal, one company came back. Sorry, it might be way up here, too bad the little guy didn't even want it. And I've spoken to that several times in the past. The only thing I'm gonna bounce back to is I don't wanna put jobs at risk. And I don't wanna utilize the map that we're sitting here consistently tearing up after year after year, project after project. We need to make grounds. So is it an opportunity for us to potentially see what other bids might look like? Do you guys have an interest in doing that? Would that derail a timeline? Would that not work for next year budgeting? Do you feel comfortable with potentially maybe seeing if other engineering firms might have an interest in bidding?
We can always go out for the bid. We are unfortunately at the end of the season where we're gonna have snow and things that are gonna affect the ability to get rain coming out fairly short. Right, so, and I know you don't like that answer either, that, you know, a time frame, this is when we're able to get to it. With all the other things that are going on plate. So could we bid it out? Certainly.
Okay. It's not that I don't support it, I guess I'll see kind of how the rest of the commission goes and kind of fall, with it, and I, just a few other questions I had for you was, obviously, as soon as this came up, one thing I thought was doing this in-house, because Tim Fox has done the last two. I love your response on. Pretty good response. But so I was just gonna say, will in-house be better or worse? So I hear talking worse. Okay, so,
100%.
okay,
Worse than what way?
Worse than,
We don't need to get into a dialogue, I'm sorry.
okay, and then the other follow-up question was if in-house did work, if not this year, potentially when, but I understand what you're putting down, I'm picking it up, so those are all the questions I had.
Could I be?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I'm hearing what people are saying here. I think what needs to happen is when there's a different issue settled in here, is you need to go out and do a process of interviewing engineering firms and a big picture sort of thing, rather than not nitpicking, but taking each individual thing. I can understand building a new commission, building trust with an engineering firm for the past 15 or 20 years, or been the trust of C2A, but I can certainly understand a process of going out, requesting proposals for engineering, and then you evaluating it and you having buy into what's going on. But this is an expenditure of $11,500 to help guide a budget that's going to be $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. But I appreciate, the concern, just need to look at things a different way. Because if they've been looked at with C2AE for 15 or 18 years, maybe longer, I'm not quite sure. So that would be the only thing that I would recommend for us to move forward, have, good information to base financial decisions on when it comes to budgeting in the spring.
Yeah, so I'm gonna respond to that.
Hold on, because I learned something tonight that I haven't known for 2 years. That someone's making decisions for us as a commission. I never said C2AE is our engineer for life. That was just semi-stated, I'm sorry. I'm saying here for 2 years, and I didn't know that I was just supposed to go, oh.
You're not supposed to do that,
I was just told by the city manager that is how things have gone and how they're supposed to go. I'm actually extremely ticked off.
Well, that's good, and let's do the table, guy. I'm not gonna put up with being yelled at.
I'm not yelling at you, I'm saying that this is how. That's how we're doing it.
So we could table it then, or is one of the other commissioners interested?
I'll second his motion of tabling it.
Okay, we have a motion in a second.
so
Any further discussion?
sure, what do we mean by table?
We gain the opportunity for people to understand more of the relationship, other commissioners to understand the relationship with C2AE.
Oh, I know.
Any answer to concern to?
My input is gonna be, I hope the city administration gets feedback from the commission's consensus and doesn't want to wait any more than the 2 years that they've already had to gain the consensus from it and goes out for bids and proposals for this.
As it should.
So by tabling that, you are also requesting that this pretty small bid process happens. This Pazer bid goes out, that's what you're saying.
The problem is we haven't done for 2 years now. Everything is always last minute. And we don't get into this, and we have no chance to say, hey, wait a second. It's always like, well, I know, we should have done it that way, but we need it. So you really need to just approve this, and get this going. And then, like I say, and then now I found out why. Because it's always been there. This is how we're supposed to just do it. We're supposed to just sit here and go, yeah, that's good.
And I'm gonna say another thing, real quick. For this department head to be up here, to go through this, and I don't care if he's been in 7 different cities and has never had a bid things out in 7 different cities. There's a very consistent flow with this commission, and I think it would have been a great opportunity for the city administration to be like, hey, before we do this, I can tell you the last 10 times how this worked out. We might want to do this a little different on the 11th, and that's what's not happening. So just keep blaming it on me.
I respectfully disagree. It's
I think that's cutting him short too, and not giving him a small.
process of building relationships with contractors, with department heads, so that we get the best service at the best price.
Okay.
And it works. Just like Mike said, it works when we hired the engineering for the marina. It works with our lawyers. There's certain things that works, and we're not getting taken advantage of by this firm.
Tom,
And my point out for this, I totally agree with you. If we want to talk about the total picture for an engineering firm with the new commission, that's fantastic. But this is like $11,000, which is small chunk change for something that we know we're going to get good quality. I don't think I don't know, I could be wrong, but I don't think another firm is going to come in and say, we'll do this for $11,000 unless they say, what else can you throw at us? That's where he was right. That's where you come in and say, let's reevaluate.
so I just gotta take your word. And that's the thing, you say building relationships. Here's a scenario I want you to follow me through on building a relationship. C2AE throws in a bid. X, Y, and Z throws in a bid. ABC throws in a bid. My relationship starts to establish between ABC, XYZ, and C2AE based off of those bid proposals. I can see what X, Y, and Z is going to, what their scope is. They might not do this part of it. They might not do this type of quality thing. ABC might have 10 times more things that C2AE does. That's creating me an opportunity to establish relationships amongst engineering firms. By just, don't talk right now, I'm speaking, by just telling me C2AE is the one and only engineering firm that I have to develop a relationship on from because it's worked out great for 15 years, is not giving me the opportunity in my role to create the relationships that you're consistently saying to create.
Well, I want to speak up here if I may, Mr. Mayor, because that's certainly not the way this is going. When we invite or encourage commissioners to go to things like commission municipal conferences, to see the other vendors that are out there, to go and talk to other engineering firms or other suppliers and things of that nature, we try and make sure that all those opportunities are aware and the commission knows that they're out there. We do not at least we haven't up to this point, every time that a commission is elected, start over again and go out for bids for everything. You know, if the commission ever asks the question, can we go out for engineering services? Can we go out for attorney services? You know, the answer is yes, whatever you want to do, whatever the priorities are. But you have to figure out what your priorities are. And is that where you want to spend your time? You want to shut the city down when we've had excellent service, where they brought in money in grants time and time again, and where we've had other commissioners shut it. That doesn't mean that we can't, and if the commission says that's a priority, that's what we'll do. But you also have to figure out where is the staff going to use their time. Can Doug go out and do Hazer studies? Yes, but we may end up with the same results that you've ended up and we're happy with before. And that's where the commissioner asked us to get a proposal, and I believe it was from C2AE on Hazer study, to get something different. And that's what we came back and did. And Doug and I did talk about, maybe the commission is gonna want to go for bids on that. And we said, if they want to, go ahead, you know, that's fine.
What's the conversation?
What's that?
Then what's the problem?
I'm not having to struggle with the
Because that's-
conversation other than, excuse me, if I can talk for a second, please. Because we're not putting the gun to somebody's head. We're open to do what the commission wants us to do. But again, there's limited resources. You have to figure out where you want your staff to spend their time and energy and resources to hopefully get you the best information so you can make the best decisions for the community. And that's what we're attempting to do here with regards to this proposal for phasers, to get you better information for the information you don't like. If you don't want this, and you want us to get other proposals, fine. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Second year, I would like to see more proposals.
We have a motion to table this, and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wexler,
Nay.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
Conklin,
No.
Moody,
Aye.
Newhammer.
Hey,
Okay, so it failed 3-2. So I would make a motion that we approve the the 2023 Taser contract award. Award purchase order contract with C2AE for the 2023 Taser study with amount not to exceed $11,500 for the bid dated 8 August 29, 2023, and authorize the city manager to execute necessary documents. Is there a second?
second.
Is there any other discussion? Jessica, roll call, please.
Nemecheck,
Nay.
Conklin,
Aye.
Moody,
Nay.
Newhammer,
Aye.
Wexler,
Aye.
motion carried.
Hey, thank you. Moving on, we have good of the order. Commissioners, anything on the good of the order?
Yeah, I would like to see if there's an opportunity for the commission to meet in regards to as we're going through the process of doing bids for attorneys. I want to walk through what that process looks like and how the commission is involved in that process. The commission is the hiring body. I do not support the city administration walking me through that process or establishing that process. I feel it's up to the commission to do that, since it is the direct hiring of the city commission. So at some point in time, before we're down the road and everything comes in already, I would like to understand what the process of the commission being involved in that is and what that looks like.
Would it be enough if that was just an agenda item on a regular meeting to go through the process?
Yeah.
Probably should get that done pretty soon, but we're kind of in an interim for the city. Is that a consensus with the rest of the commission?
Just clarification. So does, back to the chart, does the charter say that we?
Yes, it does. Yep, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, it's the one for the two that we have, the city commission.
Okay, then I'm there.
Okay,
One more good order.
time just a second for that. When do you think that might be able to?
I'm going to try and do that on next meeting.
Go ahead.
The planning commission's agenda next Monday is a discussion item regarding what I talked about last month. Regarding housing allowed within a commercial district. Is that right? Got it. Yeah. So, Tim, you wanted to know when that's on the agenda? It will be on the agenda Monday. I will not be there, I'll be out of town, but,
In the meetings are at 5 o'clock.
5:30. 5:30 here.
The 18th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
And then Tuesday is the meeting candidates, and don't forget that. And then I would like the commission to talk about, you know, we've had a lake in our front of our park here forever, not in front of the park, in the front of our park. I would like to see that addressed. You know, it gets worse, not better. And, you know, we've got, you know, members of the community trying to, you know, improve this park and everything, and we don't do anything to that. So I would like to.
was there anything else?
Oh, yeah, that's fine, yeah, sure.
Soon enough,
Yeah,
that's gonna happen tomorrow.
nice.
Thursday back out there. We think it might be a root system. I talked to the staff here. Willow trees are notorious for that. And possibly a lead shed or something that's been concrete pipes 24 inches. Our backers not equipped to cut that. Worst case scenario, we'll find them that quickly the burn all the guns.
Very good.
There was a big will for the report.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Anything else, that are good of the order? Yeah, anything motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Your second. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Yes.
Jessica, let's leave that holes in this spot until tomorrow. Yeah. Sure.